Okay, good evening, Merrimack. Tonight is the December 19th meeting of the Merrimack Village District Board of Commissioners. Tonight's participation is being offered by webinar. You can join the webinar by going to mvdwater.org and downloading the agenda for tonight's meeting. There's a Zoom link on that agenda. Or you can call 646-876-9923 and enter the webinar ID 842-4601-8286. And I believe as a courtesy, Merrimack TV may be recording this meeting. And if so, they will be playing it at a later date posted on their website. So at this time, I'd like everybody to rise and conduct the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll let the MVD office lead that, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States of America.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. So in the MVD office, we've got Commissioners Ken Ayer and Paul McLaughlin, and myself. I'm participating remotely. I'm a little bit under the weather today and thought it would be better that I do not expose my cold to anybody in the office. Wolf Von Shawn and John Lyons, two commissioners that have been excused. They couldn't make tonight's meeting, so we still have a quorum of 3 of the 5 commissioners present for the meeting, with myself participating remotely, and I am participating from my home at 6 Wasserman Heights here in Merrimack. All right, so that being said, I'll call the meeting to order. It's 5:10 p.m. And the first item on the agenda is the Finance and Human Resources Review. I understand that Michelle Holton is not available this evening either from MVD, so I believe someone else is sitting in her absence.
Yes, myself, Kristen Mayer.
Thanks, Kristen. Go ahead, take it from here.
So we are 42% through the year. And the major difference between this month and last month in terms of expenses is you'll see under the R&M accounts, which go from 7,045 to about 7,600 and so. You'll see numbers. We've actually started pulling the data from our Elements Work Order database. So instead of doing this on a year-end basis, so that you guys have a much better idea of where the budget stands for those accounts, I'm going to start doing it monthly. And you'll also notice that one of the accounts, R&M meters, 70450, we had the notes that we are using that particular budget for newer accounts that you guys had approved. There's 2 different accounts. One to kind of keep track of what's brand new to our water district system, and then other things that are new to the system, to replacing existing items. So a brand new hydrant, brand new meter, but to an existing house or street that was already on the water district. In terms of percents, we are in line with the year. And as I said, and having those numbers in there definitely gives a much better bottom line to see that revenues are also in line, which I know you had brought up last month, Don. And Ken also, that perhaps we had too much coming in based on our expenses, but a lot of expenses didn't get posted to the year end. We're trying to move away from that and truly have monthly budgets compared to our monthly expenses. Is there any specific account or percent you'd like to go over?
Anybody have any questions at all?
No.
Right, I just had a couple things on chemicals 60600.
Yes,
It looks like we are pretty well below budget on that. Looks like it's at 26% versus 42. I was first wondering if that's because we're not using as much chemical because we were purchasing water from Pennachuck, which we're not chlorinating or anything, but I
That's-
actually looked further down below and it looks like we are using it. We spent actually more money than we did last year compared to last year. But I didn't know if you knew if that.
it does have for the fact that we are using more Pennachuck water. I know that now that we are shifting more towards our own, Brian did, our operations manager pays a very large chemical order, so next month you'll probably start seeing that shifting.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. And then let's see on line 70010.2 office equipment software. Looks like there's $14,000 and some change on that. Was that the upgrade of our existing accounting software, or was that something else? Do you know?
That's the lead and copper service project. There's specific software that we will need for that project. And that is a 3-year lease of the software.
All right, good. I didn't realize it had software involved in that project, but that's good. I didn't realize that. And then the only other thing is on line 740.
Yep,
New additions to WDS. What is
Water-
WDS again?
water district system.
Oh, all right, good. I hadn't seen that reference before, so I wasn't sure what it exactly stood for.
So as I said, those are from this year's fiscal budget, both of those 7040. 70040 and 70045. Those are to keep track, as I mentioned, what's brand new, because there's so much building in Merrimack right now, brand new to our actual system, and then what's just new replacements.
Okay, good.
That's mainly for meters.
Meters, hydrants.
What hydrants for? Well,
We've had a couple hydrant additions. We've also had quite a few hydrant replacements.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that, or if not, we can move along. Do you have anything more on any of this to present?
I do not.
All right. I guess we can move on then. Thanks for your time. So that being said, the first regular session, oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute, we've got, what else do we get?
Those additional things that are on there for Michelle are gonna be tabled for the next meeting.
All right, so the sick time is not being discussed?
No, but Juneteenth, the monthly billing, that all needs to be tabled to the next court meeting.
Oh, it does, okay. All right, so then we are moving into the regular session then. We don't have anything more on the financial review or anything then.
Again, see you all. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy
You
New
too.
Year.
All right, good. So first item on the agenda is going to be a review with Underwood Engineers. I don't think they're on the line yet here, so
You want for half an hour, but I'll let them know.
yeah. If that's the case, then maybe we can move on to something else. I think the first thing we can look at, we have two different meeting minutes to consider tonight. And I think the minutes from October 17, everybody here on today, the commissioners here today were present, I think, for that meeting. Let me just find the minutes on that.
Yeah, that's correct.
So if that's the case, then I think we can review the October 17 minutes if somebody wants to make a motion to accept them, and then we'll see if anybody has any corrections or edits to offer.
So moved. Seconded.
All right, so motion to approve by Paul, second by Ken. Anybody have any corrections to offer on those minutes? I don't have anything myself.
I'm good. None.
All right, hold on a minute here. What is this? Oh, I do have a correction. Sorry about that. On those minutes, page 6, line 43. Actually starts at line 42 where it says, this agreement does not mention the water yielding agreement. I think the wording that we use was the water wheeling agreement. And I think that's what we've been calling the agreement we have with Pennachuck. So again, just line 43, if we change the word yielding to wheeling, WHEELING. I think we're good on that. And let's see, where else do I have here? That's it. I think that was all I have. Sorry for the delay. All right, so if we're all in favor of approving those minutes as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And again, myself, Don Provencher, am in favor of approving the minutes as amended for October 17, 2022. The other minutes that are from November 21st, 2022. The members of the board that were present was at that meeting was Ken Ayers and John Lyons and myself. And I see John is not present today. So typically we will not approve the minutes unless the people that were in the minutes are here to approve them. So I think we want a motion to table those minutes, if that's what everybody else agrees to, for the November 21st, 2022 minutes.
So moved. Seconded.
All right, motion by Paul, second by Ken. All those in favor of tabling the November 21st, 2022 minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so those minutes are tabled for the next meeting. Let's see what we got here. So while we wait for Underwood to come on, we could probably move on to something else. The number 6 is good. We've got the minutes all done.
How much of an update do we have on number 5? I don't know if we need Underwood for that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I think that's probably something Ron was going to present, I would guess.
Yeah,
Wow.
actually, it's pretty quick. We went out and did some fire flow data on the hydrant in question, as well as others in the neighborhood. They were all very good. Fire flows available at 20 PSI. I want to say it was about 5,000 gallons, 5 GPM a minute available. So it's very good. We did not get a chance to. We didn't open up the hydrant and look in the hydrant. The scope that I had picked up to do that with, you would really need to pull the hydrant apart. And where the hydrant is in operation, it's an operational hydrant. We want to spend the gaskets to pull it all apart. I mean, it is working fine. It was flowed.
When you tested the flow, was it out of the main port where the hose would be connected, or did you use the test ports like you did last time?
The side ports we use, but it's all open inside. So whether I mean, theoretically, I could have opened the 2 side ports or 1 side port or the 4-inch port. It still flowed. So I have not sent that information off yet to the residents, and I will do that this week. Actually, I'll send them. But my plan was to send them the copies of the fire flows. So we actually have a form that we fill out, and it actually does print out showing the flow. So I was gonna put that together and send that out as well.
You didn't see any kind of big debris or anything that would be any concern for blocking the flow in that hydrant or anything like that when you guys flush the hydrant?
No, we didn't, nothing, there was no, it operated normal, like other hydrants as far as cranking open and closed and
Didn't catch it all when you were cranking it open or anything?
catch or anything like that. And some do operate, I don't wanna say hard, but
A little chunky.
you know, when you first start, it's a little slow, and once you get into it, they open right up. But that's, most hydrants operate the same way.
And again, remind me what the description of the problem was. It was they were able to still turn the hydrant, but no water came out. Is that what it was?
They claim that the hydrant was open, but there was no water.
Thought they said there was low flow. Not that-
Well, that's what I originally heard, was it was no flow, but I guess here in the meeting, I think it was the homeowner's house that got burned, said that there was actually no flow coming out. There
No
was-
water, zero flow.
Yeah, the hose was flat, so.
Yeah, I remember him saying the hose was flat, which means no water. Huh.
But we have not been able to, you know, the following morning we went out. Opened up the hydrant, we went back later in the day, we didn't really do a fire flow, this one we actually gauged and. I mean, we gauged the hydrant, we were getting about 1,200 gallons a minute out of the hydrant at the time, but we just didn't perform a fire flow on it. Same amount of volume coming out this time, and we actually did a fire flow, so.
Huh.
Which is just doing another hydrant and, you know,
Watching the
recording
difference.
the gap, the drop in pressures and all of that, so.
So if I'm calculating correctly, I think that's like the third time that hydrant was flowed by us. I think we did it like a couple
under a
times
year.
right after the incident, and then this latest one again.
That is correct, yes.
Thought you did it once in May prior to the incident. And then the
That's true,
incident
too.
happened.
It's regular schedule, yeah.
Yeah, we serviced the hydrant, June, I think it was done in June. This incident happened, we floated that next day.
Hmm.
And then we went back in the afternoon, floated again, and then we just flowed this past week.
And it operated normal.
Yeah, they were not seeing that problem. Isn't being recreated, so I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's on our end, but, you know, I don't know. I can't
Huh.
say it for. And we'll continue to look at it. I mean, we can. Maybe a couple months, maybe we'll take a look just to see if something changes, but.
And obviously the valve, the gate valve on the lateral line that feeds the hydrant was never, you never had to open that or anything. It was already open every time you guys went and did the hydrant flow tests, right?
That is correct. The only time we'd ever close that is for if we had to do some sort of a maintenance to the hydrant and take it apart, then we would close that control valve.
Right, right.
Or if we're gonna flow the hydrant for some reason and wanna restrict and maybe put out less water. So you always operate the hydrant fully open and then you adjust the flow either with a valve off of the 2.5-inch port or the 4-inch port or the main valve.
Now that is your standard, like old school manual gate valve, correct?
Yes,
I just want to be sure that what we're talking about here is not, this is not like new age technology when it comes to fire hydrants. So
No.
all I'm seeing is the
Manual.
difference between all of your tests and what happened is that one time it was hooked up to the fire truck and all the other times it was not.
Right.
And all the other times it functioned normally and the one time it did not.
right.
Now, that's not putting blame on anybody. That's just a simple observation. Do with it what you will, but I mean, a fire truck is far more hard to operate and more advanced than a simple gate valve and a fire hydrant. So
A valve has a square nut on it. You have a special wrench that drops onto that square,
and it's just a flange all the way at the bottom.
open and close. Yes.
That's it.
Twist to open, twist to
Correct.
close.
Okay.
All right, so you're gonna get sort of a summary of what you've done so far to the residents that were requesting that information at our meeting a couple months ago.
Yes, I will get that out this week.
All right. Okay, anybody else have any further questions, or we can move back to the first agenda item? All right, seeing none. Keith, you're on. You got the first item on the agenda is just an update for ongoing projects. Or I don't. Oh, okay.
I'm gonna defer the first one. I'm gonna
Right.
defer 1A to Peter, and then I'll take 1B.
Yeah, I didn't see Peter on. He just popped in there, so good
I
timing.
just popped in, I just got back and I didn't print off the agenda, so what's 1A?
We're running a little ahead of time, which is a rare occurrence, so.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I went
We'll
through
try
a
to keep it that
contract
way,
signing.
yeah.
Yeah, let's keep on that.
Yeah, I went through a contract signing and the contractor forgot his bonds. And he's from Salem, Mass, and we sat there for an hour and a half so somebody could drive him up to him, you know, so
Wow.
kind of a pain. So what was 1A?
Wells 2 and 9, just updates, general
Yeah, so
updates.
2 and 9. So proceeding towards start up some critical items. So the VFD, they did get delivered. VFD number 2 has been wired up. We have started up the well pump. All the piping down at the well has been installed. VFD 9 has not been hooked up yet because they ordered the cable too late to, so they're waiting for that cable to come in and then they can connect that up. Which is not a bad thing. We don't have approval yet from DES for well 9, but so.
We actually did get it, actually.
We do.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have that. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's for the full 1,000 gallons a minute and everything, so that's good news. So,
Okay, so we're all set up.
so the
We're
VFD at
just have
9, the VFD for well 9 is not on site because you're waiting
No,
for the cable
No,
to get.
it is in, no, they put it is on site, it's in position.
Oh, it is. All right. So they'll
Yeah.
be able to run the wires even with the VFD there in place then.
Yeah, I guess, it opened the doors and yeah, they were to pull them up through. So, yeah, so that's good. So that's there. The generator is there. That has been plumbed up and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Looking to do the load bank test on that on Thursday. And so that would, be up and ready. GAC is scheduled to be delivered the first week of January, first or second week of January. I'm not sure if they're going to get it on New Year's week or it's going to be the one right after that. So GAC is coming in and then we'll look to get that, started up. So.
Good. So the building's all closed in, weather tight, everything is good.
Oh, yeah,
It's-
inside everything. Yeah, it's painting's all done. I mean, it's ready to rock and roll. So,
Nice.
so yeah.
So I'm assuming the contractor hasn't really given you a better anticipation date of when that wire's coming in for well. 9
No,
then?
whenever anything that's out, he just says, no update, no idea, or whatever. So he doesn't,
Really?
not forthcoming with information. So, but
And he still hasn't told you if he's not getting information on, I assume he's probably not getting information on his end. That's why he has nothing. to
I
report to
don't.
you.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that because when we were asking for any updates on the VFDs and the generator and the valve, we didn't hear anything back to him until he sends us an email and he has information on all 3 of them on the same day. Likelihood of all that coming in on the same day, coming from 3 different, different manufacturers. I kind of question if it came in all in one day, but
Yeah.
that's how we got the information and he wouldn't relay anything before that. So,
Well, hopefully the wires will show up unannounced and
and they pull them in. Yeah, they're gonna, that'll be because, pulling the wire at this time of year, because with the cold weather, it makes that wire a little stiffer and stuff like that. Be a little, that's some nice cable to pull in. So.
right.
but they are hiring a subcontractor to do that. That's, you know, that has a little bit better equipment. They had a little bit of a tough time pulling in the wire for well 2, you know, with the equipment they had.
Huh.
So, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody have any other questions or anything, or we good to move on, or you have any more to present on well 2 and 9?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. I'm kind of excited to get that up and running this winter and be ready for, you know, get all the bugs worked out of it for spring. So.
Good. So other than getting the wires, the well 9 wired and connected to the VFD, is there any other big items that need to be still constructed or anything?
No, for construction, definitely not. Yeah.
So well 2 has a new pump and it was just cleaned, I believe, by Barry Miller. Is that right?
That is correct. Yep.
Good.
Yep. New
Good.
pump and motor and all that kind of stuff. And mostly almost all new piping in there. We have a little bit of existing stuff, but yeah, that facility is ready to go.
And refresh my memory of the building at well 2, the actual pump house. Is that gone?
Nope, that's all existing. It's staying exactly.
That's
you know.
staying there? Okay, I
Yeah.
couldn't remember if that was gonna be.
Yeah, so you'll have, at the end of it, you'll have the line feed building, which, you know, will, you know, not be needed anymore. You can use it as some storage, but as some, you know, when you walk into it, it's just not a flat building. It has a pit area and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know what you know, want to do with that, you know. So,
Yeah.
and then, you know, if you decide to demo that, you also have that small little addition that you used to use for chlorine injection many years ago. I don't know if you want that if you're doing demo. That's sort of a small little addition onto the pump station that's in between the pump station and the line feed building. But so
About the size of a closet.
yeah, I don't know if you have plans, Ron, for either of those facilities or not.
Office space.
Office space, there we go. That the new
Yeah.
superintendent's office down in the clean room?
So in the contract, we were just gonna leave that there. It wasn't,
Yeah.
the demolition wasn't included in there and all that?
Yeah, because we were worried about you know, costs. We were trying to keep those down when we were doing that. So we just said, okay, let's just leave it, you know, because you don't have to have it removed, you know, so.
Right. And the roof and all that stuff is good enough shape? It's
Yeah, when was that replaced last, Ron, the roof?
On the well 2 building,
Yeah,
it's been a while, but it's a solid rubber membrane. So it's probably been 20 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
well, it's probably a lot less costly to keep renewing the roof than it is to demolish half of the building there or something, right?
Right. The line station is a precast concrete, so that there's really no roof work
Yeah.
on that, just the pump station, the pump building itself. But
Oh, okay.
And that little chlorine room is a little shed roof off of the side of the building. So that's not even when you're talking about the roof for the pump station, that's not the same roof as the chlorine room.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we can figure what to do with that at a later time. If it's not in the contract, then let's save the money. I don't think I'd recommend to do anything with it now until
Yeah,
we need to do something about it in the future, if ever.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
if you did decide to do something in the future, you probably don't need if well 3 is gonna go offline, do you demo the line feed building over there too,
Yeah, right.
right?
Okay. Any other questions on wells 2 and 9? No, then we can move on. I think the next thing we're gonna do is look at the source alternative cost analysis that was updated by Underwood. So you
Yeah.
want to take it from here, Keith?
Sure. And thanks, guys. And this is sort of a refresher reminder or just a recap of where we stand and what Underwood's recommendations are going forward from here. if you, and most of you recall that we did the 2021 water supply options update. And that's a document that was targeting, what are the more cost-effective supply options to fill our need. That, per your request, was updated in 2022 in July, most recently, and that's where essentially the just new costs were established based on current construction cost issues and recent experience with bidding. So not much change between those two reports. In fact, the recommendations are the same in 21, which I'll review in a second, from 21 to 22. What did change, though, was the costs of everything. Everything kind of went up proportionally, but the recommendations and the next steps are still consistent. And what those reports said was, and I'll show you how we did this, but if you remember, we are in a search for supply. Merrimack's been looking for supply for a long time. And depending on what efficiencies or inefficiencies we use on your existing supplies, it's at least 500,000 gallons and could be as much as 1 million gallons a day to meet your max day peak, your summer max day demands. The three options that came out of the study were as sort of a best options for you, and from a cost perspective, was to finalize an arrangement, wholesale arrangement with Penachuk, which we're in the process of doing, advance Mitchell Woods, which is a water supply well that you've permitted, and advance to a point. The infrastructure still needs to be built, and then advance artificial recharge. And the reason those recommendations were developed is other costs are either too expensive or they're outside your boundaries. There's a desire to keep, historically, there's been a desire to keep your supply needs inside Merrimack under your control. The reason Penachuk wholesale arrangement is being advanced, however, it's going to take years, 3 anyway, at a minimum, to advance Mitchell Woods or get it ready online, or to get the artificial recharge online. So the plan, the concept here is you're going to be advancing Penachuk as a stopgap. That's your near-term solution to a reliable source to meet your needs. We're suggesting you advance AR and Mitchell at this time from a preliminary design point of view to just update the get easements, deal with properties, get a better handle on the details of it, because everything done to date has been a study. And so having Penachuk on the table allows you the time you need to do that to meet your needs. Then about flash forward, let's say we do all those recommendations, flash forward in a year or two, you're going to be having operated the Penachuk option for a bit. So you're going to know what that looks like. You're going to have advanced to a point AR and Mitchell Woods. And then there's going to be a decision point on which one you're actually going to stick with long term. We think it would be AR and Mitchell Woods if the costs and the yields that we expect to come from those play out to be true. So that's kind of how and let me just show you, I think Dawn asked me 2 things on why these options came out to be. And I'm going to start with a simple table, but we did this, and I'll share because I assume I have the rights to share. If not, I'll have to ask somebody to. Yeah, I need permission.
You're all set, Keith.
Okay, there we go. So this is a table that was in the engineering report that we issued. It looks a little different in the engineering report because what Dawn asked us to do this afternoon was to focus on the O&M costs. Artificial recharge, Mitchell Woods, and the Penachuk wholesale arrangement were the cheapest options for you from a capital point of view, but more importantly, from a long-term operating point of view. Artificial recharge and Mitchell Woods are really the cheapest in terms of O&M. Don't worry necessarily about what these numbers are, but I had Katie sort this on the lowest O&M cost, and all she did was take the O&M cost and divide it by the yield for that option. In other words, the capacity for that option. So here was our estimated O&M cost right here. We just divided it by the number of gallons a minute we could get out of that option, And that gave us a normalized cost to compare them, because not all options produce the same amount of water. So we didn't want to mix up the fact that some may cost more, but you're actually getting a lot more water out of that option. So what it shows is that the two, actually even well number 9 is in here because that is a very inexpensive option for you, but that's a replacement well, not new source. But artificial recharge and Mitchell Woods are new sources to you, and they are the lowest O&M. So it's really why we've been advancing them. The Pennachuck wholesale agreement at Route 101A is very, very low on the capital cost. Doesn't cost you anything to do that, but it's higher on the O&M. So that's why we said it's an okay short-term solution to get us to the point where we can get to these artificial recharge or Mitchell Woods options. And then when you got those in play, you're only signing up wholesale arrangement for 3 to 5 years. You can abandon it at that point or continue it if you choose to. But that's kind of how this is all playing out and coming together. And maybe I should stop for a moment and see if there's any questions on that.
Sure. Anybody have questions?
No.
No, I tell you, this really kind of is very helpful to me to see. This kind of seals the deal because, I was looking at these numbers and the capital costs are one thing, but when you kind of look at when you're done with the capital costs, what's MVD going to be left with is going to be the O&M costs. So I was a little concerned with some of the numbers, the flow increases that we get. I wasn't sure, exactly how that played out, if it made sense to pursue some of these, because some of the increases, if you look at the sustained capacity that you had up there, artificial recharge was only 450 gallons per minute additional. Mitchell Woods was only 200 gallons per minute additional, but the O&M costs for those gallons is extremely low. So that definitely helps me, think about feeling better about proceeding with those two. And as you and I discussed earlier today, Keith, I just wanted to point out for the rest of the commissioners and staff there is at wells 4 and 5, the vessels, and again, you can confirm this, but I think the way I understood it is that the vessels have the capacity to hold enough carbon for 1,000 gallons a minute.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And Peter's here to correct me if I say this wrong, but I reviewed this with Peter yesterday too. The vessels were selected to be able to ultimately pass 1,000 gallons a minute. More media would need to be installed, but they were big enough to accommodate that. So that is an option. There would be other things at the facility, whether it's a new pump or something to increase the capacity at the wells and maybe some chem feed improvements. So the idea there is that there is potential that you could get more than 870 gallons a minute at this facility if AR is super successful. It might trigger, Jamie Emery tells me, a new withdrawal permit from the state might trigger, certain capital improvements, but a lot of forward thinking has been put into this plant so that the potential for more, we assumed 870 in all our calculations, but the potential could be for more.
Yeah, so 870 is just what those wells are combined permitted to withdraw today. And we can't really even get to that level. Actually, is that it? Yeah. So we're only, on average, we're only doing about, 425 gallons per minute?
That's your limit on an annual basis, yeah.
Yeah, but this past year, you've been pumping more, like closer to 600 on a daily basis. And I think that is, because you have not had some of your other supplies. I think going into 2023, where you have 7, 8, 2 is going to be coming on very shortly. You're going to have 3, all your facilities except for well 3 that have PFAS treatment. And now, Ron and his operators have a lot more flexibility on, which sources you use and for how long and at what rates and stuff. So I think you can probably cut down a little bit on that one, back more towards the normal.
And again, we're just kind of looking at peak here for 4 or 5 months of the summer that we need the water. So maybe we pump it a little less off peak and then at its, more towards its maximum during peak. So I guess I'm just wondering if we even wanted to get with artificial recharge, if we wanted to get that pumping capacity up to 870. For the
You're already there. The facility's there for that. It's just we need the AR to supplement the groundwater, increase your ability to do that. So the infrastructure, the treatment plant and the pumps have been built and installed to do the 870. You just can't do it because you don't have the water.
Right. So we only have water for 425 or
420 on
like the
an
permitted withdrawal is what I'm asking them.
420,
On a
Okay,
20 on a
on a-
24/7 basis, yeah.
24/7, 365. You can go by permit to 625 for periods of time, but you can't exceed an annual average of 420.
All right. So even to get up to the 870, if our artificial recharge was developed, we would need to go back to DES for an increase in the withdrawal permit for those wells.
I don't
think so. No,
no, I
wait.
didn't
No.
think so. That wasn't my understanding.
It was a recommendation from Jamie Emery so it was studied and it was because of the way the aquifer is built up, it was just a slow recharge.
Right.
So his recommendation was 425 daily
Average. Yeah.
average. But yes, we can go up. If we were didn't run the well all year, we probably could through the summer months run 870. But we do have that magic number that total gallons that not to exceed per James recommendation.
And maybe to confirm what Ron's saying, I sent Jamie an email this morning and I said, just reminding you, Jamie, the goal of adding artificial recharge would be to increase the aquifer sustainable pumping capacity from 420 to 870. And he said, actually, the existing permit is for 876. So.
Oh, okay. I kind of thought it was 870. That's why I wasn't sure whether 625 was coming in and all that stuff, but I knew 425 was the annual average. If you multiply that by 365, I think that's where you come up with the so many million gallons per year that we're allowed, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what the 625 and the 870, which number was the upper limit, but hopefully if it is the 870.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of that, Keith. I thought this, I didn't think it was.
And this is, so then I said, in addition to confirming the above, and these numbers, and I said, is there potential for a sustained yield of 1,000? And he said, we'd have to do the pilot testing, of course, but he said it would require full re-permitting of the well process as the historic permit is for 876. So I read his words to say, if you go above 876, you're triggering permitting, but if you stay at the 870 number, you're okay. That's how I read that.
Okay.
But to get to 876, we would need the artificial recharge.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason I think that's the way this is because that's a historical permit that you've been given. And Jamie is just telling you, we're going to maintain that historical permit limit, but you really he's watching the aquifer and he knows you need the AR to get that water through the system. So,
Yeah.
So these
Well,
are
this is-
probably old numbers because there was the wells have been there a long time. So those are permitted volumes from years back. And he was just saying, so based on their testing and monitoring of groundwater, they're saying you can do 425 all year and then 625 for short durations and not affect your aquifer. I believe that's what it all
Okay.
is, correct?
that's right.
So if we went ahead with the artificial recharge, we're looking at 7 million to get it up and going. And then about 70K annually to maintain it. Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yeah, that's right. And basically artificial recharge is only pumping at this point because you already have the treatment plant and the infrastructure. So once you spend the capital, the only operational cost really is pumping. There's chem feeds, everything else is in place. Probably a little bit more chemical use in the facility, obviously. But so that's a good segue because so yes, our study numbers said 7 million. What we've been recommending historically in Merrimack and other projects is to advance that some preliminary engineering to now maybe go out and get a little bit of field work done, maybe some subsurface work done, and some concept and some drawings done to better define that number. And so if you ever look at your CIP that we've drafted up or suggested for you, there's always that big capital number. And then in front of it, there's a smaller number that's to advance some engineering to confirm the big number. We did this on a study basis, so it's still very conceptual. So we were able to make decisions from a comparative point of view. We knew this one was cheaper than that one. But if you were going to take this to a warrant article, we would suggest preliminary engineering. And I think you're talking to Jamie too about some piloting as well to support the assumptions that have been made. So that's how we would see this going. So our suggested next steps are to advance the Pontotoc agreement, which you are, that's in the works, and then to advance the preliminary design for both AR and Mitchell Woods. And then when those pieces of work are done, we're going to be sitting down again and making final decisions on which ones we're going to bring to a warrant article and what numbers they will be.
So this is not your first artificial recharge rodeo with Jamie either, right? You guys have at least one.
This would be our third, at least, I think.
Yeah, we got Durham and Dover.
And then, yeah.
So you kind of know the process and what the next steps are and everything, and that's kind of what you're recommending to us at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this won't be able to be on a warrant article for this upcoming season. This would be for next year.
No. And we're talking, Dawn asked me and I said, I don't know what, I think Jamie's got a pilot program in front of you for a couple $100,000 plus or minus. I don't know what that is, but we would, for engineering, for both of them, we're at about $100,000. So I think we'd suggest you get it out of your budget or your reserves. So maybe 70 for the AR and 30 for the Mitchell Woods to take it to that point. Then we would go to the warrant for the capital number. Whether it's still 4 million and still 7 million would be determined, but that's when you would go to the votes. So the earliest I see you going to the votes for capital would be 2024. That'd be the earliest.
Okay.
And that's a good target year if we want to stay on schedule too. So.
John, you're on mute if you're.
Sorry about that. You see my lips moving, but nothing coming out. I was just having a coughing spell, so I wanted to mute myself. What I was saying is the good thing about artificial recharge is the PFAS treatment's already in place, So and even if we needed to go up to 1,000 gallons a minute, we would just need to put more carbon in the same vessels. So that's huge, because if we're looking at like a permanent solution for buying water from Pontotoc or Manchester, depending on what our customers want, for if they want no detectable PFAS in the water, you're talking multi-millions of dollars of additional PFAS treatment there. That's already in place at wells 4 and 5. I just needed to prove to myself that these O&M numbers still made sense at those lower gallons per minute. And that's kind of what this table's telling us, that the best term long-term O&M options is well 9 artificial recharge in Mitchell Woods. So I like that. I like planning. That's like long-term planning, because like I said, after the capital expenses have been paid, what we're going to be left with is O&M. So that's the number you want to keep low, really going in the future, So I like that. And the other thing, as Jamie's mentioned, is that the river water, Merrimack River water that we would be pumping out of the river and recharging into the aquifer for wells 4 and 5 has single digit PFOA in it. And the water that's in the aquifer right now is, I think, in the 40s and 50s parts per trillion. So we would be diluting that existing water with water from the river that's less PFAS in it. So we would be overall reducing the incoming load of influent going into the vessels would be lower with the river water. So that theoretically, I would believe should extend the life of our vessels a little bit longer. So there's other kind of side beneficial. The one I liked today was I didn't realize that we have the capacity to put more carbon in there and extend. I still understand we need to get withdrawal permits, but without having to make additional significant capital infrastructure investments in our treatment, this is good. I'm liking this better now that I'm understanding it better. And I think it took a while to get here, and I'm glad we got here because at least I feel a lot better about it myself, understanding it better.
And then, do you remember that Jamie also said that the artificial recharge will help with your sodium and chloride levels too?
Oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because they'll help dilute that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good point. That's a good point. So I mean, I don't know if we're thinking of going ahead and turning this loose, but when we get into future budget discussions, probably later in the on this agenda or something, I don't know if there's anything on this agenda, but those are things we probably should consider if we want to budget for, is these initial studies, as Keith just pointed out, for Mitchell Woods and the artificial recharge for the 100,000.
And I would, just for maybe initial planning purposes, you're obviously going to discuss it more, but I would target 70,000 for the AR and 30,000 for Mitchell Woods. Might even be 75, 25, that neck of the woods, because AR is obviously a little bit more complex than the Mitchell Woods one.
And if we wanted to commission that to start after the new year, next beginning of next year, that would have to come out of the present budget. So I'm not sure, do we have any engineering budget available or anything like that? Or are we looking at maybe funding this from one of our capital reserve accounts? What's your thoughts on that? I don't know if Ron, if you have ideas on that either.
I have to get with Michelle. I don't know where we're at as far as the budget, pulling it from the budget, the 100,000, but either way, I mean, I think, capital reserves is fine as well. But if we wanted to go there to get it going earlier.
Right. Yeah, because even if we budget some amount of money now for the next budget season, that doesn't start until July. So I'd rather not lose the next 6 months and maybe get this going earlier than that, but we would have to be able to come up with funding that either out of capital reserves or if we have any budget left in anything else in the current budget. So if you can make a note of that, Ron, and kind of talk about with whoever else, Michelle or whoever else, and see what our options are on that, then maybe we can make a decision on moving forward. And at the same time, if Keith, do you think it's appropriate to put together a scope of work or something on those two?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that if you think there's a commitment to wanting to proceed. Yeah, we'll put it together.
Yeah, well, I'll leave this to the other commissioners. What are your thoughts on this? Is this something?
I say, let's go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's especially the artificial recharge where we have most of the infrastructure there, to get it. I think it will be foolish not to.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. So
We'll put a scope together for both. But for planning, I'll know soon, but I think 75-25 would be a good, if it matters that you want to split it between the two, or just $100,000 for preliminary engineering. But we'll write a scope that will support that next step.
okay. And we'll have to talk to Jamie too and see, I don't know which comes first, his work or your work, or can those happen at the same time? or-
I mean, there's a commitment here to doing it. I mean, our recommendation is you want to do AR, and there's some assurances from Jamie's work so far that you're going to get it. The pilot's just going to prove it. So the short answer, my long answer to that is you can do them in parallel. You should,
Yeah.
you should be doing them in parallel because they're both going to inform the outcome and whether or not we're going to take this thing to town meeting.
Okay. All right, well, this is good. I came a long ways on this. I wasn't sure this was the best idea at first, but going through all of this additional information certainly helps me understand it, that it does look like it makes sense, and there's a lot of hidden benefits in there too that hopefully we can capitalize on as well. So,
And one we've always talked about, Dawn, is, and that's hard to put a number to it, but then you get your pipe in the river for a future whatever, surface water treatment plant, whatever. You got access to the river, which Merrimack doesn't have right now.
right. I wonder if Penachuk would be willing to give us a little tour of their intake and we can see kind of what,
I bet they would.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And
All
we'd
right.
be happy to give you a tour of Dover, or Dover is probably the easy one to see, but the artificial recharge there. The one in Durham's a little harder to get to, I think. You have to walk, but
Yeah.
Not too bad.
not too bad.
All right. I don't think I had anything else. Does anybody else have any? Keith and I, and actually, I got to really commend you for working over the weekend here, because I sent an email out on Saturday, just asking a few questions and reviewing this report. And Kate Canella from your office got back to me right away on Sunday on a weekend. And then you had just mentioned that you talked to Jamie or something. So, I appreciate
jumped
you
on it.
guys
We jumped on it.
doing that and getting the information to us for tonight's meeting, so we can kind of, keep this moving. That's great. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. So you guys, you don't have anything else for us? Does the board or anybody else at MVD have any further questions on the source alternatives cost evaluation? If not, then good. So the only other thing I was thinking while Keith is here with us now, maybe jumping ahead just for one item. I know we have on the agenda is potential upcoming warrant articles. And I had sent out also on Saturday an email out to everyone just questioning if we've been talking about this for a while. I know Wolf has been involved as well about do we want to have a warrant article or some other means of finding out from our customers if their intention of their desire, I should say, for non-detectable of all PFAS is something that is worth us investigating and confirming with our customers. I know, just for a little bit of background on this, if you guys don't remember, but when the warrant articles were initially contemplated and presented back in 2019, in the couple of months that were preceded the March meeting of 2019 during, February and January, Underwood had put together a slideshow and did a rate study to evaluate what rate impacts we were going to be facing based on the PFAS treatment warrant articles. In that presentation, there was an assumption or a goal. It was stated that we had a goal that we would try to have non-detect of all PFAS. Now, obviously, that comes at an additional cost, and that was kind of factored into the rate study at the time. And that's the way the warrant articles were written, however, is it didn't promise non-detectable PFAS. What it said was the warrant articles were to approve treatment to reduce the amount of PFAS. Now, obviously, we're under requirements to provide drinking water that is below the MCL. The only violation in the PFAS we have in the raw water is PFOA. So we've been treating that. I don't think we've even had detectable PFOA yet, but as you all know, that PFBA breaks through first. I have heard from some customers that they are concerned because we do have PFBA and PFPRA breaking through into the drinking water at wells 4 and 5. So we're not technically complying with the goal that we represented in the presentation of the warrant articles, but we're certainly compliant with the MCLs that are in force now, the regulated PFAS compounds. So I guess my question is does it make sense for us to try to calculate what the additional rate impacts would be if we wanted to try to implement the prior goal of non-detect PFAS, of all PFAS, including PFBA and PFPRA? And I don't know the best way to go about doing that. I think it might be better if we don't have a binding warrant article, because quite honestly, we don't really know what this is going to mean to us. We don't have enough of a track record on this, so it's a little risky for us to enter into a binding warrant article. Who knows, we might be having to replace media every 4 or 5 months or something. We don't really know how this is going to work out. You know, the prior estimates that were done back in the presentation for the warrant articles, I believe, was based on an 8-month frequency of changing out the lead vessel media. So, you know, we kind of would need to kind of revisit that to come up with some of these numbers, but I don't know if the best way to ask the customers is through either just a like a poll or something we can insert in our bills, in our water bills, or if we actually want to have just a non-binding referendum warrant to see if the customers would be willing to you know, there would probably be some increase in rates that we would need in order to achieve that. And I guess I'm just wondering what's the best way to ask our customers on going about that. If it's a warrant article, maybe we make it so it's non-binding. So with that, I'll entertain if anybody else has any recommendations and let you do.
Actually, I have a question though, on those 2 chains of the PFAS that you mentioned. Has there been talk about having set limits, state level or federal level? Have you heard of if they're looking into regulating them? It just trying to get an idea. Is this something where we want to try to be a little bit ahead of the game so that we're not caught surprise down the road and then trying to do something, you know, like
Right.
catch up, I guess, you know.
I'm not aware of anything. I don't know if you've heard anything, Keith, but I don't think the state or even EPA was looking at anything at PFBA.
I'm not sure about that one. I know EPA is looking at setting different limits on the existing standards, and there might have been 1 or 2 more that they're looking to add. I'd have to go back and double check where they stand. It's not something I've been tracking that closely recently.
Yeah, and I mentioned the other PFAS that's breaking through is not PFPRA. That's the one we tested with DES in the 70 compound panel, and there was some question whether it was really detected or if it was not detected. There was a kind of a back and forth between the 2 labs that did that work. But the other PFAS compound is PFPEA, I believe, is the one that's breaking through with PFBA at wells 4 and 5. So my understanding is I think the health advisory for PFBA that was discussed was very high. I want to say it was like 1,000 or something parts per trillion. And I think the reason why it's that high is because it's perceived to pass through the body faster. So it doesn't linger in the body to cause the trouble that the longer chains like PFOA causes. So that's why PFOA has a health advisory limit of 0.004 parts per trillion, which you can't even measure. But again, that's all based on a health impact equation that gets plugged in with a bunch of variables that are assumed, you know, so I don't know how realistic these numbers are. However, you know, there is some real concern on some of our customers that have brought it to my attention time and again that they would prefer not to be drinking any PFAS at all, and that was what was presented to them as our goal when the warrant articles were passed. So, you know, it's not an obligation because I think we're only obliged to comply with the actual warrant articles as they were written. which says reduce PFAS. It doesn't give a quantification of which PFAS. So,
I'm just curious, we just had the carbon changed out over in Wells 4 and 5, correct?
It's been picked up. It needs, still needs to be come back and go back into service, but
right.
did you, so I had Jill forward an email to everyone from Lynette. Did you see that one, Dawn? And it was saying, it kind of broke down the 4 or 5. And it was, I believe, I can't find it. It's in papers here somewhere, but I want to say it was like to have a double change out was going to be, I want to say like 13 months. Every 13 months.
I got it in front of me here. I'll,
Oh, so it's every 13 months. Oh, so we don't do the
Changing
interchangeable, okay. And we just did the first change out, right? For Wells, and how long has that been on service? It's been how many?
Well, we went longer with it to kind of
They kind of get tested out.
test and all of that to kind of put some numbers together to see what would be doing it at this point for change outs, you know, when to schedule. And
When did we start getting complete breakthrough of the PFBA?
I don't know, I think it's in that email. And there was a chart that went along with it.
I'm kind of curious if is there any way for us to be?
It's 13, I want to say it was 13 months to be, if you can call it PFAS free for what we test for. It would be.
I think you're right. I think it was about a little over a year before it actually broke through the lag vessel and entered the drinking water. But it broke through the lead vessel, and I think it was about 8 months. I think, because I remember thinking to myself, that's right around what we expected.
That was the PFBA, correct?
That was PFBA. So the only difference here, though, is the numbers we're all looking at on Wells 4 and 5. That was all for fresh carbon in both vessels, starting out totally fresh carbon.
Correct. We're
Now
only
that we're-
switching out the lead vessel currently, so that
Right.
lag vessel that's going to become a lead vessel is already saturated. So
Right,
you're obviously going to have diminished results with the previously saturated carbon.
Right.
right. So one of the responses to the email I sent out, kind of going over this, Wolf responded and said that he thought he would prefer us to, if we're going to ask the customers, he would prefer that what we do is to change out the lead vessel as soon as PFBA breaks through, which would help to sustain the lag vessel, which would then become the lead vessel after the media is changed out in the existing lead vessel.
Correct.
So,
That would be every-
and
Sorry,
actually
would be
that
every
is,
8 months.
I think that's the one. I'd have to look at this closer. I mean, it's tough. I just got this today, so I haven't really had a chance to look at the spreadsheet, but anyways, I think we, I'm just trying to get ideas if how we can try to present this to the customers and have them weigh in on what they're willing to do on this. And, something else I'm thinking about here is if this is an exorbitant cost to do this, because you got to think about in the middle of the summer, you're treating all of the water, and 2/3 of the water is irrigation.
Yeah.
So you don't really, you know what I mean? You don't really need to treat irrigation water, right? You're not drinking irrigation water. So I guess what I'm wondering is, does it make sense if there's a small amount of people who are concerned with the short chains, it probably makes more sense for them to put in their own reverse osmosis system. And I don't know if it makes sense for DEP to get involved. I mean, I'm sorry, for MVD to get involved with assisting on that. I'm just throwing that out there. In the long run, it may be less costly significantly for us to look at funding some in-home initial RO installations instead of having to change our media out in 3 treatment plants every 8 months. Those are things we all kind of need to evaluate, I guess. But
And I'll just weigh in here because I know I've been asked about this before, and I think I've even said so before, but I have not seen a warrant article be presented to a legislative body at town or district level where they ask operational questions on, do you want us to operate it this way or operate it that way? So my recommendation or thought process on this is you got to figure out a way to, make a decision and get feedback from your voters and so forth. But I would not suggest, I would shy away from putting a warrant article together that at all, never mind one that's binding. You guys are you guys run the district, you hear from people, listen to people and make decisions accordingly. But I think it becomes a challenge for you, number one, to constantly meet the intent of a warrant article with so many factors that come up in the future. I don't know how you could even write this. And I think there's other ways to get information that you can use to advise you in the decision. But I think that's what you want, is you want to be advised from your folks, but I don't think you want to get yourself in a position where operational decisions are being based on a binding warrant article. So, whether it's a survey or a bill stuffer, in your monthly bills now. But, I think that's the way you want to think about this. You have a licensed operator that, ultimately has to make certain decisions anyway to meet the state rules. And I think you're guiding, giving direction on that from the people that that are voting you guys into the office. So I would try to shy away from a warrant article, but that's my thinking.
I'd add something to that is, the family of PFAS chemicals is huge, and you're only testing for some. And when you're talking about, we're going to provide this PFAS free, I get scared when I hear the PFAS free, because you never know what chemicals that you could be, pumping into your system that you can't test now, that somebody might come back at a later date and you said, but you told me it was PFAS free, and it's not. I think it's very gonna be, I don't know. I'm always cautious about not using that term. It's always reduced. And then, if you're asking about, should we reduce PFAS to certain levels, but you never know what new chemical is going to be coming up and how fast that goes through your system and stuff like that. So if you do get, like as Keith said, if you don't want to get bound into something, because if you do, you could be changing that out very frequently, and at a huge cost. I understand what you're trying to get, but it's kind of a little tricky, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I was thinking we would have to kind of be specific about what tests we were talking about comparing to for the PFAS that we're talking about, the method 537 or 537.1, whichever one, because those have sort of different compounds in them a little bit,
Yeah. But then does that change later on? All of a sudden they'd be able to start testing for some more chemicals, and then they add that to it? And then if you're locked into that, that test, now you're kind of locked into some of those new rates, new levels and stuff like that too.
And the other thing is, as the detection limits go down at the lab, who knows, we may already have some PFAS coming through that we just aren't measuring. We don't.
Right. That's why I don't. That's why I
Yeah.
don't like using that word PFAS free, because you're almost never going to have PFAS free, because some of those short chains are going through. You're never going to be free. Right.
Like
You're always going to have.
So you're pretty much, to your point, Pete, we're be opening ourselves up to a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Down the
If you
road,
say-
because the PFAS chemical we didn't know was in the water. And then all of a sudden we have to test it, and then all this time it was there, then they can,
Yeah.
because I don't know what they're releasing in the stacks at the current time, or which PFAS it is, or.
Exactly. That's another problem, is we don't even know what PFAS are emitted, so we don't know what exists in the environment, because they're not obligated to disclose the PFAS that they're using. So all right. Well, that's good. I just kind of wanted to get you Underwood's thoughts on that. I think we could kind of deliberate on this ourselves, I think, from here, but so that's helpful. I understand probably a questionnaire or a poll, or if we did a warrant article in some way, make it non-binding or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's a sticky situation. It's hard to kind of like wrap your arms around it.
And if you did go, the funding of the point of use, RO system, if you wanted to do that, I guess it would be good, but if you said, oh, we'll provide it if you want it, all of a sudden you getting into a huge cost of all the individual ROs that you might be putting out there,
Yeah, I would probably look at it as just a one-time credit and then,
Yeah.
Have the homeowners be responsible for maintaining it or something. And then if we ever consider just a one-time credit, then they would handle coordinating the contractor. If it's not
Yeah.
installed right, that's not on MVD,
Yeah. And then I question on those things because RO it all comes out to a waste stream. So then
Right.
if you're on the sewer, then that is going to go down to your sewer plant. If you're on an individual one, I'm just trying to kind of thinking through this, like, so if you're on a septic system and all of a sudden you're discharging it, into the ground right there, are you potentially creating something at your individual house for that? Just.
Well,
I
again,
don't know.
that's, you wouldn't be getting any regulated PFAS even going to the house. This is just the non-regulated short
Right.
chains.
Yeah.
For now, they're not regulated.
Right,
short chains.
exactly.
So I know what
yeah.
you're saying. I
Yeah.
agree.
But
I think whether it goes in your septic system, treated or not treated, it's still going in your septic system. If you know what I mean?
Yeah,
If-
yeah. True. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Ken,
That's
you had a
right.
question?
I just, the credit or whatever thing, I mean, we're not the polluter. Why would we give people, I think that's more of a legal issue against a polluter, I don't, for every MVD customer filtration system, then we also kind of admitting that the water is not safe to drink, that you need to have a water treatment system at home.
What's to say
Yeah.
that we're giving them a credit that they're gonna use it for that? Who's gonna keep track of that? How are they gonna show receipts? The operations and maintenance.
So,
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I know there'd be some kind of
and
enforcement.
then which system?
There you go.
Right. I was just thinking out loud,
Yeah.
instead of having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year changing out media, so the irrigation water in the middle of the summer is not, is treated.
Yeah,
Maybe this is a way that we could save on, reduce those costs. But I'm just thinking out loud, just.
Don, I know we're putting a lot of weight on maybe what was presented in 2019, right? I mean, that's kind of what's carrying some of this conversation.
Yeah.
Did we go back or did you, I was just trying to look at some of my notes from that because I can actually find some of them. I'm not sure I got them yet, but is it clear that that's what was said? I know there was a goal, or was it to all PFAS or regulated PFAS? I mean, and maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know, but we seem to be putting a lot of weight on what was,
Yeah, if you could find, and I'm sure I have it somewhere, I don't know if I could pull it up now, but certainly there was a PowerPoint presentation. And I'm positive in that PowerPoint presentation that we represented that the goal was to have non-detect of all PFAS at the time that we could test for. And probably at that time, we were probably only testing for like 12. Now we're in the 20-something, 26 or 7.
This warrant article was voted on in 2019, right?
Yes.
yes.
I'd have to confirm this is the right one, but I just pulled up our PowerPoint presentation from the bond hearing, which I think was February 25th, 2019.
Well, I thought the PowerPoint presentation you were talking about, Don, was from Kathy Brown. And she the one who presented it at the public hearing. And
Oh, so maybe it wasn't ours.
You're
Right.
thinking of Rosemary? No, I'll bet you, I'll buy everybody dinner.
All right, well, that's fine. If it's there, it's there. I just, because the one I'm looking at says, but below detection
Doesn't it say for all
for
PFAS?
24 PFAS chemicals. But it says below detection, not, yeah, it does say, sorry.
Yeah. it's the same
It
thing.
does say below detection.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But for the 24 being monitored. Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, those are all the same, non-detectable, below detection.
Yeah, you're right.
PFAS
Yeah.
free, you know, it's, to me, it sounds all the same. I
Yeah, I
don't know
agree.
legally if it is or not, but
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So that was the goal that was presented.
yeah, I definitely remember that distinctly.
Okay.
I've been reminded several times too. So.
I haven't looked back at it for about 3 years, so yours is fresher than mine on that one. So, all right.
Okay. I think we've exhausted this. At least we now know the concepts out there on the table, and you know we'll have to figure out what's the best way to reach out if we want to do that. I don't think we have to make a decision on crafting the words tonight, but maybe think about it, and at some point we gotta decide how we want to handle it. That's all. So I appreciate your input. I'm glad you were able to find that for us, and that's helpful.
Good.
All right, good. So if we don't have anything else, I think, is anything else for Underwood? Is there any action items that Underwood is involved with that we might want to have any updates on potentially?
I know I was supposed to look into some things about the VFD and the bypasses on those, and I have not had a chance to do that yet.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
That was action item, I think 62.
So we want to talk about that a little bit. Talking with Brian.
Yep.
That would. So we run in parallel, parallel motors. At the treatment plant, 7 and 8 treatment plant. To bypass a VFD there, that would mean that the motor will be running full capacity and potentially draw down the clear well too fast.
Potentially, yeah, you would probably end up, that
So I
could
don't know.
cause a cycling, yeah.
So I guess there would not, I don't see it being able to work.
But you could still do it, Ron, because it would take a little bit more, because what you could do on that is the pump could be running at full speed, but then if you throttle the butterfly valve to put additional head on it, you could push it back on the pump on its curve a little bit, you know, by putting additional head, right? So it would be a manual playing around to get that to work. So, but you could get it to work.
Okay.
Right, you follow me?
Yeah, no, I do. And that was kind of my point.
So on that system at well 7 and 8 with the clear well, I was assuming that the clear well has a level controller in it. And if it gets full, wouldn't it shut the well pumps off, or no? Is that not how it works?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
No,
I
if it got low, it wouldn't shut off the well pump. Oh, are you
well,
talking
usually you
about?
have low and a high lockout alarm, don't you?
Yeah, and are you talking about the well pump VFD or the high lift pump VFD?
The wells, the well
Okay, so if
pumps.
you had a well, if you had a low well level, it should kick off that. Yeah, you should have that on there.
Yeah, so if the clear well either goes too low, well, at that
No,
point.
no,
if
if
it
the
goes too
clear
high,
well got too low, you would still want your well pump to pump.
Right,
If if the clear well got too low, you want your high lift pump to shut off.
right.
That's pumping out of your clear well, yeah.
But if the clear well got too high, didn't Ron just say the problem would be overflowing the clear well, or what? I can't, maybe I've misunderstood that.
Well, you would drain your clear well too fast. If it was at full, if the high lift
High
pump
lift pump.
was going at full bore, you could potentially drain your clear
All
well
right.
out.
You're talking about, so you're talking about the VFD on the clear well pump. Okay.
Yes.
I was thinking you're talking a VFD on the well pump.
So the VFD at the well pump, I believe, has a soft start as well, so that wouldn't need to be bypassed.
Yeah,
Yes.
because that one was installed, you know, as part of this project, you know, so we had was Sade did the well 4 and 5 plan. He did the upgrade for 7 and 8, and he did the well 2. Sade did not do the initial well 7-8 project. So I believe the high lift pumps there and And that's what I need to, dig into, is look through the specs on that and the shop drawings to find out exactly what you have. But I believe that one is not a bypass. I'm sorry, it's not a soft start bypass because of if you look at the size of those VFDs that you have in there, and then look at the size of the ones we have at 4, 5, and 2, the cabinets are a lot bigger, for all that equipment, and that's why I believe it's not there. But I need to look through and verify that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you still got more research to look into.
Yeah, I
that
do. Yeah.
Action item, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I was just looking through the list. I think that's the only one I see with Underwood Engineers on there. The other two are we're gonna kick those off till June of 23. The SDC calculation and the work session for corrosion control. We're gonna look at those later in the year. So I don't think I see any more here that I'm aware of. Anybody else? I don't see anything that involves Underwood anymore on here.
I think you're good.
Yeah.
All
Did
right.
we keep you ahead of schedule still, I hope? I don't know.
No, we probably went beyond. That's my guess.
We're kind of jumping around, so we're okay.
All right. All right, well, thanks, guys. Have a good holiday
night.
too, if we don't
Yeah, you
talk to you
appreciate
beforehand.
it. Thanks
Happy
for-
holidays.
Thank
All
you.
right,
too.
bye-bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
All right, good. So, well, the next item on the agenda is number 2, potential warrant articles for 2023 annual meeting and possible date change for the public hearing. So does anybody have anything to present on that, Ron or Jill or something?
So you should have in your packet a list of warrant articles that were last year, but did pretty much typical. I mean, we just changed dates and numbers, but it's pretty much what you see every year.
Right.
I know we had talked about additional potential warrant articles, and I know one of mine just noted, jotted down, was the Penachuk interconnect, Penachuk agreement.
Yes, the wholesale agreement.
Yep, so that needs to be a warrant article. We're still on the fence about the PFAS.
Right. Is that wholesale agreement something that we need to get legal involved with, or
Legal has been involved with it, so, I mean, we'll draft up warrant articles anyway, no matter what we draft up. Always goes to DRA and legal. And they check the wording and all that, so it doesn't have to be now, we can draft something for that article. I can draft something for it, and the board will see it prior to.
We'll see it at the January meeting, because the
Yeah.
February meeting that's usually the public hearing. So we'll
Yeah.
talk about that afterwards too.
Yeah. And does fresh my memory, does it usually go to the board before legal, or it goes to legal
At the
then?
same time,
About, okay,
yeah, they're pretty standard, and now DRA has templates too, so a lot of this isn't our wording anymore.
okay. So really, the only new thing from what we're looking at from last year is the Penachuk wholesale agreement. And if we want to get some kind of short chain PFAS treatment non-binding article in here or not. But the rest of these are all kind of the same, just kind of going through them. Number 1 is the choosing, I think it's 2 commissioners this year. Article 2 is that that can go, right? Because the 2-term office,
Yep, I'm up for re-election, so that'll be district clerk.
right? And then number 3 is just the operating budget. Is that what that is?
yep,
Okay. Number 4 What's this $20,000 fund? Yeah, I think that's a recurring one that
That's
every year.
recurring as well, yep.
Number 5, vote to raise appropriate sum 100,000 to the non-capital reserve fund. Is that something we need to replenish?
Um,
Do we expend out of this at all?
we did not, so if there's, that usually depends on what's available. And Michelle will usually let me know if there's, you know, if we unanticipated revenues or, you know, what that budget number is, and we can decide where to split up, if there is any. We should decide where to split it up. It could be this fund, it could be equipment and facilities. There's usually always an SDC one. That's
Yeah, so is article number 5 that capital reserve fund, well, the non-capital reserve fund, I guess it's called. Does that actually have a fund balance assigned to it?
Yes, it was $100,000 in there.
And do we still have that in there?
We should, yeah, I don't believe we've expended that.
So the emergency, I guess that was that considered emergency water, the water we've been buying from Pennachuck with the reduced rate, the emergency rate? Is that being funded just out of the budget or?
Right now, it's budget, we're funding it through the budget, and then I think we said let's see where we come out with it, and we can always, if need be, go to the capital reserves.
Okay, and it does say maintenance of GAC treatment facilities, so.
Yep.
I guess I would interpret that to include if we did need to start changing out some of the PFAS media that went beyond whatever we budgeted, we have this reserve fund for that, correct? It sounds like it's for that.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right, so if we don't need to, so that Article 5 can be deleted then, because we don't need to put any more, commit any new funds to that? Or do we want to? Or not?
This was, it could be, I mean, yeah, we got a little bit what our balances are, and
Right,
if there is a surplus, then we can divvy it up. And I would probably say it wouldn't probably, if we do have some, it probably wouldn't hurt to fund a little bit more into this account as well. And, you know, maybe that would leave, you know, out of take a little bit off the budget for the wholesale agreement, if that passes as well. We have options, I guess.
okay. All right, so why don't we, I guess number 5, we'll just kind of keep as a place marker and see if we do want to commit any additional funds to it, or if we don't need to. Probably see where the rest of the budget lands and everything too, once we get further along, right?
Yes.
All right, and then number 6, SDC. Is that a number that's whatever funds are left over from the prior year? Is that where that number comes from, the 263,923 from last year?
Yeah, that's what was. It's collected through entrance fee, not entrance fee. It's part of the entrance fee. It's one of the fees that somebody hooking into our system would pay. So I don't know what that number is off the top of my head, but that would be it would be a different number, but that would definitely need to stay. That's usually there every year.
Okay, so that value, that amount, it just changes depending on whatever
Yes.
revenue we have available, right?
Yep.
Whatever it's unassigned fund balance, basically. All right, and number 7, $200,000 equipment and facilities capital reserve associated with existing storage, transmission, and production of water. Did we expend anything out of that?
We are, yes. Well, we have some expenditures that are going to come out of capital reserves, but we just haven't. So we typically we'll spend first, get an end number, and then go to capital reserve. So you've already approved certain expenditures to come out. We just haven't gone for that funding yet.
Okay. So is this Article 7 going to remain? We don't know what the amount is gonna be, the 200,000, or do we need Article 7 at all?
Well, my suggestion would be to leave that one in as a placeholder. If we may fund, if the board chooses to fund it, we can. We also have, so these are just really examples. We also have the legal and water purchase, irrigation, Mercy Interconnect article that we've used in the past that could come into play as well if we wanted to fund that as well. So
We'll actually put together the articles. We just wanted you to see what was out there and if there's anything in particular that you wanted to change at this time. Otherwise, we're gonna get the articles drafted up and then out to you and let you know.
yeah, I was really looking for anything new, like, I know, like the Pennachuck Interconnect agreement, the short chain. Was there anything else that we're bouncing around?
I don't think so. Anybody else have any other ideas that I'm forgetting or?
No,
To my recollection.
no. When is the public allowed to submit warrant article? When does that window open up?
I don't have the deeds in front of me, but they're posted and they're also put in the newspaper. There's actual posting dates.
Okay,
So many days before the public hearing.
okay. So we won't get to see those beforehand if somebody puts one in, right?
You will.
We'll see it in February, right?
We have to vote
Okay.
on it.
Somebody submits a warrant article and it's 2 days before. I still have to revise the warrant articles and get them up to you all to go for the board for approval. Or review, I should say.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right, so I guess it's just those 2 additional warrant articles that we need to have drafted up. So when do you need like some kind of written text on the PFAS treatment article? What's the next deadline for these? Something has to be submitted in what, January, February, or which?
I don't have the dates in front of me,
So we are pursuing the PFAS article?
but Keith recommended against it because it's basically putting a warrant article towards operations, which is what the operator's job is. And when we don't have any data and things are changing, we're gonna pigeonhole ourselves.
Yeah, I'm trying to read what when the next
So around January 17th, that these are, so some of these dates aren't firm, it's just for me, so that I can be ahead of things. So January 17th is when I'm looking to get the warrant articles to DRA for review. But then the filing dates for elected positions and petition warrant articles is February 8th through 17th. So there's that gap in time where we can revise things.
All right, so even if we miss the January 17th warrant articles to the DRA, because our next meeting is going to be the day after that, right? Or no, that's the work session. Yeah, January 23rd looks like our next meeting. So I don't know that I don't know. Would the DRA weigh in on if we wanted to do a PFAS article, even if it's non-binding?
No, they won't. They will just check it for legality.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to figure out if we do want to move on this PFAS article, if that's something we need to have, when do we need to have that information in?
What about rather than an article, Dawn, how about like a survey, like through like Survey Monkey or something on our website? And then maybe we can do sort of a mailing, asking people to go to the website by a certain date to answer the survey.
Yeah.
Or it's a survey, it's nothing binding, maybe more apt to not get us, I don't want to say get in trouble, but you know what I'm saying? It's more of a guidance rather than holding us to something if things change.
Right.
Oh. I'm sorry, but are we already finding to? Because when the Underwood was talking, you know, he looked up the article from 2019. It says what was it, under detect?
Well, that was the PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, okay, all right.
It wasn't- Yeah,
I would agree with Keith that it's at that point, it's up to the commissioners. If you have one commissioner on the board that says, I don't want to change out the GAC until once every 2 years, then they'll have a chance to vote that guy out of his seat and we'll get somebody else in there. But I just think to put it up to the voters, or I wouldn't say, because some of the voters we have are far more informed than I am. But I mean, we're going to the whole town. All they're going to see is that, well, are you okay with a little bit of chemicals in your water or no
Yeah.
chemicals in your water? So at that point, we're not getting much information.
But also the problem is we don't know all the PFAS that's in there.
Well, not just that, we don't know what future PFAS they're going to be using. We're
Right.
eventually going to find in the ground, how far we're going to be able to measure
Limits.
down in the future. So, I mean, we're trying to nail ourselves to a board when we don't even know where the board is.
And I,
So,
and to your point, Paul, we probably would want to have some sort of a cost for change out in there as well, or an up to amount, because that could make a difference on somebody's choice as well. If it's going to be, and I'm just, another $500,000 to change out a year, that much sooner
With a possible rate increase,
with the,
there's a lot of factors.
yeah, somebody might say, no, I don't know.
yeah. So I think we would need to support what the rate impact would be if we looked at changing out the media more frequently. And that would, that's based on a lot of really wild assumptions, because we're not really sure how long this would last, how long the vessels are going to last. We have the ability to just make this decision ourselves and kind of see how it goes. If we want to say, you know what, at wells 7 and 8, when the PFAS breaks through, I think PFBA is already through the lead vessel. But if we want to say, let's change out the media when PFBA breaks through the lag vessel, I mean, we can do that.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. My point is that we're really boiling this down to, I hate to say purely a political thing, but that's kind of what it's heading towards. If the voters see that one of the commissioners is making a decision they don't like, they're going to have to kick them off. We can't just continually bring things down to the warrant articles just because we
Yeah.
don't make the decision in front of us. I personally will be more akin to do what I believe you said, Wolf said in an email, that once we see PFBA fully saturate the lead vessel, change it out. Because we don't know what the saturation level, how that will affect the performance of the lag vessel once it's transferred to the lead vessel status.
And we can
Let's
make
call
that,
I would call that an incredibly conservative approach, obviously, but
right.
I mean, that's what I would do. I obviously wouldn't wait till it's halfway saturates the lag vessel, because once again, now you're gonna just have to replace it sooner.
Yeah.
And I'm leaning on what Lynette emailed is a little bit, it would be like almost like a 13-month. And that almost sounds like what she was looking at as well.
I'm just saying, I don't see a warrant article giving us much more information than we already know.
Okay. Especially if it's non-binding. I mean, I wouldn't want to make it binding. So,
If it's not binding, then we're just gonna be redoing the warrant article from 2019. We already know the outcome of that one.
yeah. I mean, it won't have the $14 million in there, but
Obviously, yes.
and I guess we do have, I mean, it looks like we got the capital reserve fund in Article 5, which is the $100,000 for emergency water and operations or maintenance of GAC treatment facilities. We've got that in there that we can expend if we wanted to, if it's not in the budget. If we decide to start changing out the lead vessel in our treatment plants when PFBA breaks through, and we could kind of see how it goes. that's kind of what I was thinking too, and I was discussing this with some of the other customers that were asking me about it. You know, I know Wolf has been kind of putting out on social media that we don't have the authority to do this and we need direction from the voters
Authority to change out the GAC.
more frequently. Yeah, I don't.
I would
think-
say
I
we
think we do.
absolutely
It's
have the
operational.
authority. That would fall under an operational umbrella and we're the commissioners of the district. I wouldn't
I
see.
agree,
that we
yeah.
Have that.
I mean, I don't know if he was looking at like informative direction, if that's what the ratepayers want us to do.
Hmm.
Or if he was just saying that we need their approval to do that. I definitely don't think we need their approval to do it. I think we can do it on our own.
If you feel more I could see if he feels more comfortable, because that's obviously gonna increase rates. If he feels more comfortable knowing he has the backing of majority of the customers being comfortable with their rates being raised, yeah, I understand it, but I don't think that has anything to do with giving us permission or
Right.
power to do what we wanted to.
Be
And
kind
I
of nice.
think, go ahead.
It'd be kind of nice to, maybe. Down the road, break down in the bill, like showing. The percentage of your,
That's going towards GAC change out.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know if we
Right.
would ever be able to do that. What percentage of what your bill is going towards GAC change out? What percentages
or,
staffs out? That's a lot of breakdown.
you know,
I can see Wolf's position and I think it's good.
yeah,
I
just
think what he's,
people have like, could see it, Yeah.
if we make this decision as a policy, as a board, to change out the media sooner, there's gonna be some customers that are gonna be against it, there's gonna be some that are for it. If we make a decision not to do it, same thing, we got some customers that are gonna be against it and some are for it. So
Exactly.
it's almost like getting, what do the voters want us to do? What's the
Exactly.
majority, I think that's where it's coming from, so.
Well, and I would argue that's why we have to be elected to this position. Instead of having warrant articles, well, if you do something they didn't like, they're not gonna elect you for the next term.
Yeah, but at least this way, it takes it off of our burden and puts it to our customers, so. All we can say is, that's what the voters wanted,
Well, Don, that's why we make a big $100 a month. Okay, those decisions.
I guess so. All right, I think we've exhausted this a
Yeah.
little bit here, so there's another part here on the changing the public hearing date. That was primarily, I think, requested on my behalf. If others are amenable to that, I'm going to be away that day. That's February, where is it here?
27th, was it?
27, I think. Yeah, that's the public hearing on the operating budget. We start the regular meeting at the MVD office, and then we all go to the high school little theater and do the public hearing on the budget. That's listed here as on the 27th of February. So I don't know. I know last time, I think we've had challenge getting everybody there, a quorum. I don't think we've had the full 5 commissioners there for a couple of years. And I know
Was
I'm
it
not gonna be there, so
Wolf that couldn't make it?
Yeah,
I thought Wolf said he wasn't gonna be able to make 27th either.
Right.
did he say that?
Yeah, I think he was only initiated the email asking about, would be willing to look at another date.
is that vacation week? February,
It's always vacation. week for the public.
Yeah. Jill,
mean,
did you say the room or some room was available the prior week, I thought?
Yeah, November 23rd. I just need to let her know tomorrow because she's very hesitant to hold rooms for any length of time. It's not something that they do, so I put in a second application and I'll cancel one tomorrow
For the 23rd.
for the 23rd, yeah.
That's a Thursday on my calendar.
Correct.
So it's up to you guys. I would prefer to change it. I'm not gonna be here on the week of the 27th. It sounds like Wolf's not gonna make it. If you guys are available either day and don't mind changing to the 23rd, that's up to you.
doesn't matter to me. That's fine. 23rd is good with me.
Okay.
My
Are
work
you-
schedule comes the beginning of the year, my work schedule's all up in the air, so yeah.
One way or the
PTO
other.
gets refreshed, so.
All
that's what
right.
it is.
So if we did that, it would be both meetings, the regular Board of Commissioners meeting that only lasts about an hour anyways, and then, or an hour and a half, and then we go over to the little theater. So I assume both of those would be changed. Might as well do them all in the same day, right?
Yeah, it's the third,
Guys,
we do the third Monday of the month, it's in our bylaws, or next Monday if it's a holiday.
So the board meeting would be the same, it would just be the public hearing that would move.
okay, so you still have the board meeting on the 27th?
Yes,
Okay. I mean, I was thinking, because you're still gonna be challenged to have a quorum there. That means if
So did you,
anyone,
am I looking at the right year? You said the third Monday of every month, correct?
right,
That's the 20th for February?
but that's a holiday, so it's bumped to the next. It's the same thing in January and February.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think we should just change both to be on the 23rd, because it's only gonna be an hour and a half meeting if it was on the 27th anyway. And Wolf and I aren't gonna be there for the regular meeting or the public hearing, so we still have a potential quorum issue on the 27th, whether for both meetings, the regular meeting and the public hearing. So
Don't they
I
go-
would say, why don't we
Don't
just
they go
change?
hand in hand anyways? Don't they go together anyways? Don't we review the articles to the meeting before and go over?
For the month before where we assign. Like
Yeah.
who says what?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Review and do all that stuff, then the regular board meeting, you don't do anything.
We just sit and we adjourn to go to.
Go to public hearing, sign minute, the warrant articles. And that's basically it.
Well, I don't know. I'm still, if we're changing the meeting on the 27th, because we might not have a quorum. We're not gonna have we might not have a quorum for both meetings, so. I don't see why we're not gonna just take the hour and a half before the public hearing. That we meet at the board meeting and move both of those. To the same date on the 23rd. I don't see what's the. What's the benefit of having a regular Board of Commissioners meeting on the 27th when we know only the most 3 commissioners are gonna be there? Like, why do you still want to keep the regular board meeting on the 27th?
It is in our bylaws, but I'm trying to think,
We did move a day for Wolf, so.
we have
Mhm.
Yeah,
I say it was maybe 3, it was this year.
to share. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, Don, I mean. If. I think that's.
well, I think we're jeopardizing not being able to have the meeting on the
Yeah,
27th.
you know, you bring up a good point, yeah. So let's do that then.
And I thought we do talk about the public hearing a little bit at that hour and a half board meeting before the public hearing, so.
We have in the past, yeah, it's
Yeah.
a,
Change is not, it's not something to, be worried about. All right, so if my preference is to move both of the meetings from the 27th to the 23rd. Do we need a motion for that or something, maybe to make it official?
yes,
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, motion by Paul, second by Ken. All those in favor, say aye,
Aye.
and I'm in favor, so that's 3-0-0. All right, good. I think we can move on to, what's the next item, number 3?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is something that did Underwood have anything to offer on that one? Or I don't know if anybody has anything else prepared on that number 3. Board of Commissioners are here. Update on peak demand usage and overall. Peak demand and overall versus permitted consumption policy.
so I did talk to Keith a little bit on it, and I have started drafting a policy. And then once I get it complete, I can actually get it, I was gonna pass it off to Keith or maybe Tom Page to review just to make sure that, I've covered everything, but I'm basically starting off from when the plans hit community development and they get dispersed from there, so
Okay. Good.
I don't have anything to the board to look at, but I have started it and,
All
Gotcha.
right. Yeah, I didn't see anything in the packet, so that's why I
Yeah.
was wondering if what more there is of that.
yeah, no, I just, basically, so it was an action item and we put it into the agenda just to have, make sure we had the discussion on it, but
Gotcha.
All right, so you think maybe when you can have something available at one of the next meeting or two on that?
I'm shooting for the next meeting.
All right, great. Anybody have any other questions on that?
Nope.
All right, moving on, number 4. I think we touched on that a little bit earlier. I think so you had some good information, Ron. I know you talked about it with who was it, Brian, you said?
Yes, I did talk to Brian about it as well. Yes.
That's the sorry, I didn't say what it was. The bypass of a defective variable frequency drive. What's the procedure if that happens? So and then drawing a blank here. Pete said that he would look into that more as well. So he
Yeah, I'm
probably-
gonna work with Pete on that. I'll talk to him because it seemed like there's gonna be a lot more, and not saying we couldn't do it. I mean, obviously, if we need the water, we'll sit at a plant and turn a pump on and turn a pump off. It would be a more manual operation. But
right.
yeah, so it's kind of, I don't want to say Brian wasn't in favor of it, but he was like, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of work to
Obviously.
do something. But I mean, obviously, if we need the water, then we gotta run it. So,
Yeah, so I think that's the whole point of this being an emergency is it wouldn't be something we would do electively. It's something where if
right,
you know, we want to probably maximize all the other sources that we have to make up the difference. Depends when it happens. If this thing happens in the middle of the summer, then we might have to sit there and babysit it and adjust the valve manually and activate the pumps manually.
that might be the better situation. You might almost be able to set and forget. Not literally, but
Yeah,
set it and
yeah.
you just let it flow and you don't have to sit there and turn off and turn on and all of that. So,
right, right. Okay, we already did number 5, number 6 minutes. So looks like we're at number 7, which is the review of action items from previous meetings. So looking at that, we'll just go through them. Number 2, that's the recurring one. Number 23, which is the results, the PFAS sample points in the distribution system. I believe that was presented, is that at the last meeting? No. Was it?
one of them was in there, I think, for the last meeting.
Right.
Looks like here we're in January, supposed to go over it.
Yeah, I think you had that at the last meeting. So if this is a quarterly thing, since it was presented at the last meeting. Actually, when do you sample that? Is that on every quarter that sampled the distribution systems?
It is, and actually, I think we did, I don't think it was in there now that I say that, only because I remember Joe saying we need to change that date to January.
Okay, that's what I was trying to remember if we covered that or not.
Yeah, so I don't believe it was in there last month.
All right, so the last column where it says report to be given in January, we'll keep that in January then.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, the only other, I made a note here in my notes. I think these are posted on our website, if I'm not mistaken.
They are.
So if I don't, there was a couple of other things here that I'm going to mention later. There's some updates that haven't been, some graphs that haven't been updated on the website. And I know there was some that Jamie had just put together recently, but some of these other ones go back further back. So I just had a general question about, is there sort of a list or something that we can keep to remind that when we have results on some of these quarterly graphs, to also remember to go back and update the graphs on the website as well? I don't know if you guys, I don't know how you guys track that. Is that something out of memory, or, because if it is, it looks like we probably should have something more definitive.
Just that memory.
Because some are quarterly, some are monthly.
Yeah, so, and I know this isn't the distribution systems, but I can't remember when those are, hold on a second. So the distribution system, I got a note here. If you go on the website, the distribution system was the last date in the table is the sampling and the distribution system done on July 27th. So I think there's been an update since then. So I guess I'm just saying we should probably look to update the distribution system graphs on the website as well. And for that matter, Underwood's graphs on the wells, the last update on our website is from February of 2022. So there's a lot of stuff on our website that's outdated, like pretty significantly. The raw water graphs by Underwood, that should be updated because, you know, February is, we certainly have more information since then.
You know what, Don, it might be, what I may do is actually ask Amy to look at the website monthly. And anything that has a graph or for updates. And then she can request if we have them or not.
Do we need to post raw water data anymore? All the water is going into the system is treated.
Well, we've got graphs on the website, and we have, and they're old, and we have graphs that were created after what's posted on the website. So why wouldn't we just update the website?
We can, but no, I mean, once all the wells are pumping into this, all the PFAS plants are up and running, we probably could stop doing the distribution system. Run it for a little bit, I mean,
Save some money.
it definitely would save some money, but it's.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I mean, the only, well, I don't know. The only thing we would be detecting is probably the short chains and whatever Pennachuck Water is giving us. You know, so. Yeah, I wasn't talking about not sampling. I was just talking about, we have graphs that are updated recently. But in our possession that we had done from Underwood, you put them in the packet, Board of Commissioners packet. We've got updates on graphs from Jamie. We got updates on graphs from Underwood in the last couple of months. And when you look on the website, it goes back, back to February. So
We'll go back and look at it. I mean, Amy was completely in the weeds for 3 months as far as billing went, so she
yeah,
both missed it. So we can look at it again.
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a good point. So I would just say, it seems to me if we get these graphs updated by Underwood and they get put in the Board of Commissioners packet, that's probably the same appropriate time that the website can be updated, because that's the most current information. So if there's some kind of a way that you can get a better handle on that, then we can just keep the website updated better. All right, so back on here, that was number 23. Open house number 40. I know we tabled that till spring. Oh yeah, ongoing salt mitigation committee meetings. I thought Jamie said something and he was going to try and coordinate something with you, Jill, about he wanted to talk to Fidelity and then maybe try to reach out to some of the group there in our salt committee meetings and see if we wanted to do another salt meeting or something. Did Jamie even probably didn't talk to you about any of this then, I'm guessing?
I need to give Jamie a call tomorrow anyway, so I can talk to him about that. He did call me today and had some questions on how the signs were making out.
Right. Yeah, because I'm gonna talk about something later, but I went driving around town last week. I think it was Tuesday. And there's a lot of salt being applied on roadways. The building right behind you guys, Slate, that's supposed to be, I know that's in an aquifer conservation district. That's part of the Merrimack Premium Outlets. There's crystallized salt on that parking lot where the construction vehicles are. That they shouldn't be using salt at all on there.
No, and he's well aware of that. He actually asked if he could, and I told him no, and there's gonna be our new member to our salt committee.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
You got a question, Paul?
Slade, the guy across the street is, whatever, you know, is using salt. He said like old school rock salt.
that's, yeah, he, apparently, I didn't catch that one.
I did.
Because since I've been on the planning board, they're told to use the Green Snow Pro. You know,
Right.
the chemical there. So that's definitely a something that we brought up.
No, him and I had a conversation. If it's the same person we're talking about.
He asked whoever we're discussing, he asked you if it was okay.
Yeah, no, he said, what can I use up here? And I said, it's,
He knows what he can use up there.
Sand
The planning board tells them what they can use up there, so he shouldn't be asking you anything.
that is a sand only site, anything this side of the wellhead protection area
Right.
is
Right.
sand only. And
Yeah.
I did let him know that. I'm wondering if. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe he needs a reminder from the building department of the town.
He's the property manager over there, I guess. So I don't, maybe there was a little hiccup and it was somebody on the site. I don't,
It's not connected to Merrimack Premium Outlets because I went up that driveway, that roadway, and there's not a speck of salt on that road anywhere to be seen. They're doing a great job over there.
yeah,
But then I took the turn that goes into the Slate building. And there's definitely,
I'm only saying because both of those, they've already had approvals. So whether or not they would have gotten the exact same information that the outlets did down it, because we're at a different
Planning
meeting.
board.
The planning board the planning board has already given them approval, so they're very well aware of what they should and should not be using.
right, and that's my point, is they either, they're new on this, I guess, and they didn't realize it, or they didn't care, or whatever the case may be.
There is
There's
no,
crystallized salt on that paved parking lot with all the
If-
construction
if-
vehicles.
whether they're new or not, if they're in the business, they're in the business.
we
Yeah.
had to address it over there as well with premium, the first one to the premium outlets were in as well.
I'm sure they'll hear about it again, so.
And then, the unregulated sites, Fidelity, it was better than I've seen it in the past. I mean, you remember the one time it was just outrageous, but there still is crystallized salt being put down at Fidelity. So I was wondering if Jamie had an update or somebody had an update on them. He wanted to talk to them, but there's still salt being applied over there. And it's there, it's in the gutter. It's definitely there. The roads are all white. The other building is BAE on 21 Continental. Has an extreme amount of crystallized salt on their entire parking lot. I don't know, I don't think that they're one of the members in the salt mitigation committee. But that's kind of my point, is no one is kind of pursuing the committee, which is what I thought that Jamie and Jill were going to try to work on. And I know they're not bound to, they're not required to not use salt. They can use salt. But again, I think as far as I understand, we had 2 notices sent out to all these developments, these existing developments that are grandfathered. We've asked them twice to curtail their salt use, to do something different, to join our committee, to get some ideas. But nothing's changing, so. I don't know, I'm just putting it out there that no one's policing it. No one's following up with it. No one's really doing anything about it, from what I can tell, because it's still happening. And for me to have to go out and drive around on a Tuesday afternoon and find this all out on my own, why am I doing this? Why isn't some of the staff doing this? Why isn't somebody calling and sending letters and saying, hey, and politely, I'm just to remind these people that you're in the Aquifer Protection District. We're asking you to proactively change your salt practices, to join our committee meeting. I mean, I don't know if we need to hire someone to do this and pay them, a wage to be the salt police or something, but what's going on is not working.
So
So,
when we have policed in the past, we typically do not go to places that have that are
my grandfather, right?
It would be because we really have no authority to say, stop doing it. We can encourage
so-
again, we can do another letter out there, Don, if certainly, and ask.
I think we should. I think every storm that, maybe once a month or once every few weeks, take a ride by, and you know what? If I have to, I will, and I'll let you know. And
No,
then
I can task staff to do that. I can do that as well. But I want to know what we do police, when we police, when we have time. I mean, it's a lot of it we notice is when we're out and about doing things, or it's brought to our attention, we'll go look at it. But is
Right.
places that have the restriction, that's where we can send. I can notify planning and zoning, and they can send or ComDev, and they can send a cease and desist letter. We technically don't even have the authority to stop them from doing it. We have to notify ComDev about it.
right.
Here
And
at
that's
the-
fine. That's definitely, I agree with that. That's good. We should keep that up, and just taking it a step further is going to the grandfathered sites and just kindly asking them, they might not be aware. We send these letters out. I don't think we even know who the people are that we're sending the letters to. We might be sending them to I don't even know where you get the name of whoever you're sending them to. We might be sending them to people that have nothing to do with the salt application. So it's just not getting to the right people.
I
But
can
I don't think
verify,
anyone's,
but
I don't think anyone's picked up the phone and said, hey, who in your organization is responsible for this? Who can I talk to? I think we just got to give a little more attention. And if it's extra work, maybe we find someone, intern, or, I don't have time to do this. And this is something that I think we need to do, because I'm spending time, everybody's spending time going to these salt committees and trying to do all these things. We're graphing the salt, we're doing all these things, and nothing's changing. And I'll even take a step further. If you look at the graphs of the sodium and chloride on wells 4 and 5, wells 2, 4, and 8, the sodium and chloride are spiking again in the packet that we have, if you actually looked at the graphs. So it's telling me whatever we're trying to do is not helping. So I just wanted to get that out there. If there's a way that we can do that better, I don't want to micromanage. I mean, that's your job, Ron. If you have ideas on how to implement this better for the grandfathered sites, politely just asking them to change their practices to join our committee, that would be great. And obviously the ones that are required to not use salt, that's a different story. We got to go to the planning board or the town planner or somebody to kind of like do enforcement action on that. And I didn't take any pictures. I was driving around. I didn't want to have to get out of my car and start taking pictures of everything. I did have some pictures. There was some on the roadways, Cambridge Drive. They're not the arterial roadways, the secondary roadways that are supposed to be no salt. And there was quite a bit amount of salt on there. So the town is actually not following the latest salt policy from what I can see either.
Yeah, and I don't want to make excuses for anybody either. I was wondering this year if you're going to see more salt use just because of lack of manpower.
Yeah,
Type of thing as well.
all of the well-trained plow drivers have quit now and we don't have, you know.
Yeah. As far as parking lots go as well, if they don't have the staff to sit there and maintain a parking lot, they're gonna do the next thing and pour a bunch of salt on it and hope, it melts and somebody's not gonna, they won't get the falls, but.
Right. I mean, I will say there were some grandfathered sites on Continental that had no salt that I could see. So there are some properties that are taking that, initiative that we asked them to.
Yeah.
And there are some that aren't. So I think we just got to make connections to those people, the grandfathered sites a little bit better. All right. So if anybody has any other questions and if not, we can move on. I don't want to take up too much of your time already. Number 46 and 47 action items are postponed. Looks like number 49 is also June of 2023. Number 55. That was on the agenda. We'll have to revisit that at the next meeting, I think, right?
Yep.
And then you're looking at number 56, is that right, Ron?
56 and 57,
Okay,
where that was the policy, basically. Yep.
all right, so I know that, so that was on for this meeting, so you're still making progress on that. You want to, do you think you'll be ready to have something on the January meeting?
I'm sure, yes, I think so. Yes.
All right, so if Amanda wants to change number 56, 57 instead of December to make that January.
All right, got it.
Okay. Number 58. Yeah, I think think these were already done, right? And my only note on here was to update those graphs on the website. Let's see, 59.
Sorry, are we removing 58? Oh, no, it's four.
Let's see here.
It's quarterly, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's ongoing, right?
Yeah.
You can put that in January, Amanda. We just missed.
Okay.
the November one, so we'll sample them in January, so actually February.
February, okay.
Sounds good. Number 59, proactive measures to track and correlate customer complaints. I think, yeah, that was pushed off till April.
Well, we actually took care of that because we have a work order system that Amy flags it as a work order for WQ, water quality. The only thing we're not doing right now is putting it onto a map.
Okay.
But hopefully by April, we'll be better able to handle doing something like an overlay.
Yeah, so I'd like to keep that on there. I think we still want to have that presented better and for the commissioners to see what exactly your data you collected and what do we do with it. Number 60, the Lou Niles thing.
It's still
I don't
nothing
think-
from them.
Yeah, I don't know. Keep it there, but I don't know that we
Yeah.
have a due date on it. It's just something to remind us. It's something we want to keep bugging them on. Number 61, update Underwood to present addendum to source alternative analysis. I think that one we can cross off because they just did that. So if you guys are in agreement with that one, number 61, the source alternative evaluation, I think we can delete that one. 62, procedure to bypass defective VFD. Let's kick that one off. Well, that was November, so we should probably throw that one out till at least January.
Okay.
Number 65, report on the hydrant. That was this month. So why don't we keep that there, and at least you can give us an idea what you sent to the residents that were here asking about that. Does that sound good?
Yep.
So we'll put that off for January. And then number 66, investigate water conservation plans and grant availability related to odd even irrigation. Oh yeah, that was a question I had. I think I think does that word number 66 instead of grant availability, is that grant eligibility. Should probably, I think that's the more appropriate word.
I can change that.
Yeah, and I'm also, I think we were looking into finding where in our water conservation plan does it actually say that odd even is in there because of our water conservation plan. I didn't see where that, I didn't see any, I know Jill, you sent something around, but
I sent the conservation plan that talks about odd even watering along with the bylaws that state the odd even watering restriction.
but does it say that the state is requiring this of us?
So
The state is requiring a conservation plan, and we had to come up with a conservation measure. So the MVD instituted odd even watering as their conservation measure.
So I think that's where the confusion was. It's not a state mandated thing. It's always, so I've always said it's part of our conservation plan that we need when we apply for grants. The state's not mandating,
Specifically odd even.
right? They're just saying you need to have a conservation plan.
All right. So I was really just interested in this because the planning board chair had indicated that he wished we could get rid of the odd even and just go to unrestricted irrigation. And I was looking for something that we can supply to him saying, this is why the odd even irrigation policy exists. So if that is if that's the conservation plan that we have, then maybe that's what we can send over to the planning board or and let them know that it's part of our conservation plan. So if let's say we wanted to get rid of odd even and just go to unrestricted irrigation, what would what would happen? Would the state, what would happen? Would the state come after us and say, oh, you're not abiding by your conservation plan anymore and you're going to lose?
It's the bylaws. It's the bylaws. We'd have to do a warrant article to change. There still would have to be a measure of conservation that ends up in the conservation plan. The state mandates the conservation plan. And because it's a conservation measure, it has to be in our bylaws.
In order to change a bylaw, you would have to have,
Warrant article
A warrant article.
and a new conservation plan.
so we can take it off. We can tell the planning board chair that we can get rid of it. Not that I think that's a good idea, but we would have to come up with something to replace it with. Then we would have to have a warrant article in order to follow through with that.
So for example, Don, I believe it's Portsmouth. They do for energy efficient
Right,
toilets and
like low flow
Washington.
stuff.
washing machines. They'll do like a one-time rebate. So that's part of their conservation plan. But they also have, and I want to say it was like, I don't remember what the rate was, but they also have a conservation rate, I guess, or an irrigation rate as well.
That's our tier rate.
Exactly. So
So if we institute a tiered rate, could we replace that with odd even? Since we're planning on doing a tiered rate either way.
yeah, and I mean, we may want to consider putting it a little bit higher,
The top tier, you mean,
the top tier.
or breaking it up.
There's only two.
Yeah, so they would want to see more tiers.
Right.
But why does the planning board want us to change our policy?
It's not the planning board, it was more of certain members of the planning board wanting to see a goal of unrestricted access.
I almost want to say that
Which I don't,
it's
not as a planning board member, as a commissioner, I don't think that's smart
No,
at all. We provide drinking water.
I don't know if it was
Now,
in
if
the
you wanna water
context
your
of,
lawn, then we have tiered rates and you can pay more to water your lawn.
I mean, especially if who knows,
It's also an education message too, because people ask why you have odd even watering, because you don't need to water your lawn every day if you do use little mushrooms,
You shouldn't, because that's not how you water a lawn.
right.
They got a lot
And
of
I think I made that comment.
It seems to come down to more of I pay for the water, I should, you know what I mean, kind of a thing.
but
Yeah.
you want to
Don't-
be able at
don't
the time
tell
you
me what
need
I
to
can
have
and
to
can't do.
drink water. I mean, there was a situation where the water level got real low and there was a fire. Yeah, where, if one of the wells,
The tanks.
Hey, excuse me,
Yeah.
it got real low, and if there was a fire, you would have had, there would have been a situation.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a kind of a, I don't want to say a strange
Obsession.
6 years. I mean, we were hit with PFAS and we've had plants shut down. I mean, there's been where it's been helpful and we've had droughts and COVID in between. I mean, so it's been a tough. But typically what drives the high water demand is when there's the dry conditions, drought conditions, which the states pushes for audit, some sort of water restrictions anyways. I think us having it in place all these years is actually, when the states ask for more, complete bans or whatnot, we haven't had to do that. And our water levels have been pretty stable through these dry periods. I think it's been actually a good plan right along. I mean, it's a management tool as well. I mean,
You should absolutely follow odd even, but like, how often do we have guys driving around?
During drought conditions, we do.
During drought conditions, I mean, like, overall, when we have that policy instituted, we don't have guys driving around in trucks.
we don't.
Counting the size.
We can't afford to do that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, in drought conditions, serious drought, yes, we have,
It's mostly neighbors.
that's what I'm saying.
And in a good year, when we have enough rain, people aren't.
You shouldn't need,
We don't need to do it.
Exactly.
really. I mean, we will, if somebody calls in and says, hey, my neighbor's watering every day, we do visit those places. Or if we blatantly see, driving down the boulevard and you see somebody on, watering every day, those do get addressed. But for the most part, we're not out looking for it.
Irrigation too.
when we receive a complaint, offhand, not to take up any more time, when we receive a complaint like that, do we take down like the caller's name and address, et cetera, like the town does for an action notice? Or is it more of like, okay, well, who's watering the lawn? I'll go check.
It's just a notice that says, hey, it's been noticed that you're watering every day.
That's what I
A lot of
thought.
Times what happens, the problem is that there was a storm and it knocked out their timer or something, so now it's going.
It's just going off consistently.
All the time.
Yeah.
So we just let them know, hey, you might want to check your timer, make sure that it's going off at the appropriate time. It's not anything that's like a smackdown or
Yes.
anything.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
be honest, I don't believe we record the complainants.
Just
Information.
Only because it just,
Yeah.
once again, for the planning board thing, I get complaints constantly that people don't want to call the town. Because for the town, for you to submit a complaint to the planning board, there's like, what's your name? What's your address? What's your phone number? And then that person who gets the complaint gets all that information.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Nobody wants
So it's
to.
almost like a legal notice.
Exactly. Yes. That's all I. Go ahead, Don. You're on mute, by the way.
Oh, look at that. No wonder nobody's answering me. Okay, so number 66, I think we've exhausted that. Again, I just, it feels like a loose end hanging. I kind of would like to get back to the planning board members that requested that and say, here's a reason why it's in a conservation plan. And it's the way we decided to come up with some way to conserve water. There's other ways to do it. And, to get into like rebates for low flow toilets and all, I know other towns and other states do that. I'm involved with some of that. And, that seems like way more of a burden to track all that stuff. And it's money that water department actually has to fund to the residents and stuff. So that seems a lot more complicated, but yeah. So the only other thing I was wondering is on part of the salt thing that I saw was, and I think I might have mentioned before, is the DOT on Continental in Industrial Drive, the signs that they have, it does say no salt, but they're very close to the intersection. And I think we'd like to push one of them back to be over by the off ramp for exit 10, southbound off ramp for exit 10. Because that's really, from all that drainage comes, that makes it into our wellhead protection area from up there. So
You're referring to the salt map.
yeah, so those I guess we can kind of look at those now if you want.
those are not in, that was just a proposed area for a sign saying that, you know, entering a wellhead protection area. But we can certainly,
It was also agreed upon by the town too, as far as where other signages and placement.
well, we didn't. The town won't place signs in the state, on the state property.
Oh,
So that's
just on
something.
that way then? Just on industrial?
Yeah, that would have to be DOT, right?
Yeah, that'd be a DOT, Old Milford Road. Fortunately, there is already signs on Milford Road, actually in the right locations. So we're just gonna change, I'm gonna change out the old sign to a new sign. We were able to replace in kind, so.
All right, good. So, and I don't know, maybe Jamie would be the guy to kind of contact DOT and just, you know, I don't know if we can ask them to push the sign back to the off ramp of, because it doesn't even match up with the aquifer protection boundary, the wellhead protection area boundary is closer to exit 10, but the sign is almost, it's like 100, 200 feet from the intersection. So it doesn't line up correctly. I just think that needs to be changed because, and not that it matters, because there's still salt at the intersection on the road anyways at Industrial Drive and Continental. So they're just not, they're not abiding by their own low, no salt signs either. So there's really two issues there is to have them, you know, follow their no salt signs. And then the other issue is to move that no salt sign further up Industrial Drive to the off ramp, the southbound off ramp of exit 10. I think it should be there. So can someone look into that, or what's the process of just calling someone and then they can tell us to go fly a kite or what? I don't know, you know, what do we do?
I need to find a contact and actually give permission to put signs up. I will look into that. I was wondering, I'm gonna talk to Jamie tomorrow. I'm wondering if, I mean, we have NHDES members of our salt committee. I was kind of hoping they could put pressure on the DOT. They're part of the state to actually show up to our meetings and be a part of what we're trying to do, but
Come on.
it's my wish list.
Right.
Broken stoplight in Continental Boulevard for like 5 years. I don't think they're showing up to salt meetings.
Yeah.
Can we make maybe an action item 67 to inquire with the Mass DOT about moving their no salt sign?
I mean, New Hampshire DOT?
Did I say Mass?
Yep.
Oh. Yeah, New Hampshire DOT about moving the no salt sign closer to exit 10 for action item 67.
Yep. And who will do that?
I will.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks, Ron. Okay, and then these maps, I know you had some maps of the wellhead protection area in the packet. I
Yeah.
didn't know what was there an intent on those or anything? I do see some check marks in there. Is that where you were gonna put some certain signs or something?
Yes, those are all the locations, the
protection.
sign locations that Kyle and I came up with. I came up with a lot more. That was the whole, we didn't want to cover too many signs, it's distracting or not seen anyways.
Right.
So those are I know it's a small map and it's really hard to see.
Yeah, no, I see them better now. I didn't see them at first, but I see the check marks now. That's good. I mean, we can always fill in more. You know, if personnel changes over and they're not so against signs for whatever reasons, maybe we can fill in those signs in the future, but that's good. Is there,
I agree on that. I would say it was a start to get them out there anyways, and
right. All right, so, okay, action items. Anybody else have anything on the action items? I think we're good.
done.
All right, so next on the agenda is, we already covered other stuff, so it would be old business. Anybody have any old business to present?
Done.
All right, so none there, then we can move on to new business. Anybody have any new business?
No,
None.
No new business? Just a couple things I was wondering if we want to add to put in the budget for next fiscal year. Some things to consider is we had, I think there was a Pennachuck Waterworks, the wholesale agreement requires some level of SCADA.
That's
Is
already
that-
happening. We're doing that now
Okay,
as part of our upgrade. I don't, sorry to interrupt you, but no, we're actually going to be able to work that system like that interconnect like any well. We'll have controls and to on off speed controls up and down for both pumps. So it's going to have full generator just went in. So we're getting we actually had some funding for a generator that we were looking for, a generator for that project. And the SCADA upgrade covered that as well through the I don't want to say the grant, but our SRF, our funding for our treatment plants, there's an upgrade in that, so that it covered the interconnect as well.
all right, good. And so we don't have to put it in the budget, that's all. I'm trying to think of things that we might need to budget for in the next budget season. And that was one of them. Something else I was wondering if we want to add something, I don't know how much, maybe $20,000-$30,000 for piloting resin. To be like a follow-up to the carbon, if we want, it might help to reduce the short chains. That we're kind of trying to figure out how's the best way to get, PFAS non-detect. So just for consideration, if we might want to think about maybe $30,000, I think might be something that we could do some piloting of some resin. Possibly at wells 4 and 5 where we have those test columns set up. That nothing's been done on that in the last year or so after we did the study over there, and maybe we can make use of those columns. And I think, and the other thing, maybe we should make an action item. I think you were going to look into, Ron, was the Keith and Jamie were going to provide us with the next initial steps for artificial recharge in Mitchell Woods. So again, I think one of the things I would like to make it an action item just so it doesn't get dropped is to investigate if funding is available for artificial recharge in Mitchell Woods, investing in engineering, let's call it. If it's in the current budget and what remains to be put in the budget for the following year. Does that make any sense? It's a substantial amount of money. Keith's talking about 100,000 and Jamie's talking about 200,000. So we got to figure out where that's coming from. And I just don't want to lose track of that and have it not be in the budget and then find out that we didn't budget for it when we might need to implement that, right?
Yep,
Is that Ron as well?
yes.
Sure.
So that's over and above the initial 100,000 for 75 and 25, right? That's what-
Yeah. If you look at the artificial recharge, the worksheet that goes into that cost analysis, part of the total cost in there was the $200,000 of Jamie doing some hydrogeological studies. So I just want to make sure we don't omit that and forget about it. That's all. So I think that's all I have at this point, believe it or not. So if there's no other old business, then I'm sorry, new business, and we can move on to the superintendent report.
All right, I believe everybody got the pictures. We did a first change out at wells 4 and 5 on well, I sent pictures around showing it.
Yeah, yep.
It was about, I don't know, it's like a 3-hour. By the time we started evacuating the media, about a 3-hour period. Went well. And that should be a 2 or 3 week turnaround. So we should be getting the media back last week of December. Next week or the first week of January. For that. Final apps for the mainline extension grant was submitted on 12/8 as well. 1.5 million each, so we were able to get 2 more streets as well.
So do we have a total of 3 of those grants or 2 of them? How many?
3 grants.
3 grants, great.
Areas on
That's
one
awesome.
and one area on the other. There's 3 areas, but
I'm
2
sorry.
grants.
You're right. Yeah, one was two roads were combined. I'm sorry for one.
Oh,
was-
that's-
so
Okay.
it's $3 million in grants, 1.5 million each, up to 1.5 on each.
Right. I remember now. Yep. Good.
We're sampling tomorrow for PFAS, normal PFAS sampling.
PFAS sampling is taking, sampling results are taking longer. We sampled on the 22nd of November, still don't have them.
We don't have our old results.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too on my own private projects. The PFAS sampling's taking like 3 or 4 weeks now to come back, so you're not alone.
And I did, I need to follow up with the town. I talked to NEM, our distribution foreman, all the areas, for the signs. The new wellhead protection area signs were marked out. We're probably gonna have to redo the dig safe on those. I know that the town was purchasing a hydraulic hammer. And they were kind of waiting on that before the signs, to put the signs in, so they don't have that yet, but I need to follow up with them to find out when they expect it.
So they're putting in the poles and we're putting on the signs, right?
We're working, we're working with them to put the posts in as well as the signs.
They're waiting, hydraulic hammer.
Yeah, they're like
They don't have a hammer. Like just a hammer.
you know,
Yeah, no, I know, but I mean, like,
the 9
get a hammer.
Yeah,
It's just me, but I see what you're saying.
yeah, I had to put in 30 of them in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've worked in a union shop before too, so I know.
And then they're called posts. To get the 2 signs. You're gonna have to stand on the back of a truck anyways to start them, so.
Yeah. Yeah, those are pretty tall, probably 8 feet
Yeah.
tall. Start, right?
Move the taller posts because there's gonna be 2 signs on them. Posts.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So that's all that I have.
Okay. Oh, you know what? There's one thing I just wanted to remind us is, did Saint Cobain approach us about water main extensions yet? In their additional water mains that they're putting in?
No,
The only reason I'm asking is because there was a couple years, actually 3 years ago or more. There was a water main that we ran down. Was it Pearson? And we decided to spend the extra money. I want to say it was 600,000 or 2, I don't forget what it was, but just to extend the main down to the Bedford line.
Oh, yes, off Wire Road. I want to say
Remember
it was
when- yeah.
340,000 or something like that. Maybe it
Yeah,
was 6. I'd have to go back and look. But I don't
I just
think,
extended it to the bridge from, we had 2 roads that,
right, we didn't go past the brook, but. I don't think that was ever on the list, though. I was looking for that because I was hoping to recoup some of that. They should be paying for that extension as well. At least
yeah, I guess I wasn't sure if the additional wells that they needed to connect were those wells that we ran the line down there already? And if so, then that, I remember at the time we said, oh, that money, we'll get it back from St. Cobain when they have to connect these wells that we're putting the line in for. So, you know, I don't know. I want to make sure we didn't spend that money for nothing and we can recoup it if they need to connect those homes.
No, I would, absolutely. No, that's on my radar as well, because, like I said, when they come up with the list, if it's on there, they'll be paying for it. We're trying to get them to pay for it. They should be paying for it. We did them a favor in a sense, because it wouldn't be the same cost today to do it.
Right, and I think that's what it was. The contractor was there mobilized with the equipment. We said, just keep going another however long it was and
Yep.
we'll get it back in the end. So, all right, just keep that in mind. I just wanted to remind us, because I thought Sanko would be coming back to us at some point, because I think they were just required to connect a whole bunch of additional wells, and I'm not sure how much of those were in Merrimack or not, but.
So I don't believe that that main that was put in shows up on any map up there. So they would technically, if those houses need to be,
They wouldn't know the main's there.
they didn't know the main was there, so they'd have to mainline extension in that area.
Right, and then we can recoup that cost from them, so,
Yep.
okay. All right, so questions of the press and public. I don't know if we see anybody on the line here. It doesn't look like I see anybody else from press or public. So if not, then next meeting is January 23rd. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, motion by Paul, second by Ken. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Meeting's adjourned. Have a good holiday, everybody, and thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Glad you guys made it, and we got this meeting under the belt.
Have a great night, guys.
You too.
So,